All right, we're off and running. It is Saturday morning, January the 6th, 2024, 9:19 on the West Coast, 19 minutes afternoon on the East Coast. Welcome. Welcome to one. Welcome to all. Welcome to the Krueger Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m., but they do run out, so they're only open until they run out. Pig and a Pickle. Get the brisket chili. It's all great, but go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. They are the title sponsor of the Krueger Show, and of course, we're also brought to you by New York-style Italian sausage. I'm thinking about making some of the stuffed mushrooms later today, just for the family tonight. And I make them with the Italian mild of the New York style Italian sausage. Is the only kind of sausage I eat. It's all great, though. The Italian spicy, the Italian mild, the chorizo, the breakfast sausage, all top tier stuff. So check out New York style Italian sausage. You can find it in every grocery store throughout Northern California and parts of Central California and Southern California, as well as Arizona. They are expanding. They are expanding their reach. Check out the New York style Italian sausage. And of course, we are brought to you by Marin Auto Glass. MarinAutoGlass.com, 415-883-3030. You shatter a windshield, you need a new one. Man, you don't know where to go. You're really upset because your window got busted and cracked or whatever it is. You just call them, tell them your make and model, your VIN number. They pop out to where you're at. They pop out the old windshield. They pop in the new one. They glaze it all in, sweep away the glass, one-stop shop. What we like to call Marin Auto Glass is a lifesaver. That's right. When you need them, you need them. And MarinAutoGlass.com. Great company. Thanks to Saeed, the owner of Marin Auto Glass, for being a sponsor of the Krueger Show. Once again, 415-883-3030. And we're also brought to you by both Underdog Fantasy and Mojo Fantasy. Check the link in the description of the show. And make sure you use that promo code KRUEG, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. I'm loving Mojo Fantasy. I'm loving Underdog Fantasy. They both are outstanding if you love fantasy football and you love to throw a few ducats around. So thanks to our sponsors for being our sponsors. It is our normal hit with the coach. The coach will be in here in just a matter of moments. He was running a little bit behind, so we kind of pushed the thing back to 9:15. And I don't know that we pushed it back on YouTube or in StreamYard, so I apologize to those who have been waiting. But we are customarily a few minutes behind. But today we are off and running. Right at roughly 9:20. Roughly 9:20. So hope everybody's having a great day. NFL football today. We're going to get into the Niners game tomorrow. If you're down in Santa Clara tomorrow for Niners Rams, I'll be on the radio with the great Lorenzo Neal at 11 a.m. from the Santa Clara Hilton, which is on the backside of the parking lot there at Levi Stadium. Stop by and say hello. We'll do pregame tomorrow on 95.7 The Game Radio from 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. And then we will get to the game at 1:25. Niners and Rams. The Niners are 12-4. The Rams are 9-7. Neither team has tons on the line here. And it sounds like it's going to be a battle of backup quarterbacks. Not sounds like. It is. It's going to be a battle of backup quarterbacks. Sam Darnold goes for the 49ers. And, of course, the great Carson Wentz goes for the Rams. And if you say that Carson Wentz, it's like Carson Wentz, I think, is 3-0 career against the Niners. He's got a 3-0 career record against the 49ers in games that he started. So, but the Niners also have won 9 in a row in the regular season against the Rams, and they're trying to push it out to 10-0. Carson Wentz in his career, what a weird career. He's 46-1. And the guy had a great season. He was a high draft choice. And now he's the backup to Matthew Stafford in LA. And then Sam Darnold also was a very high draft pick, number 3 overall, I believe. And he is 21-34 career. So, Sam Darnold, I personally would love to see Sam Darnold play for like 3 quarters and then see Brandon Allen for a quarter. I mean, you may need to lean on Brandon Allen in the playoffs at some point, and why not? Why wouldn't you want Brandon Allen there? But it doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. It sounds like Kyle Shanahan's going to give the entire game to Sam Darnold. It was funny. Darnold was asked this week, do you regret signing with the 49ers? And who's going to say, oh, yeah, I sure wish I didn't come here. I'm a real idiot. It's like, he's not going to say that. Of course, he said, no regrets. Um, Sometimes I laugh at some of the questions that get thrown to these guys because it's like, you know, do you need to ask a question when you kind of know the answer? That's, will you be satisfied with a loss? No, we will not be. It's like, are you going to be playing to win? Yes, we are. It's those kinds of questions, but whatever. But the Niners are 12-4. The Rams are 9-7. And, the Niners clinched the number 1 seed in a first round bye last week by beating the Commanders in Maryland. And that allowed Shanahan to sit Brock Purdy in place of Sam Darnold. And he also has given Christian McCaffrey time off. It sounds like Trent Williams is not going to go at left tackle. So, basically Shanahan said all the regulars are going to play. But then he said no Purdy, no CMC. I think it's come out in the last 24 hours. No Trent Williams. But how much do we see Nick Bosa? How much do we see Deebo Samuel? How much do we see Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle? So Kyle Shanahan seemed to be a little weary of the 2 weeks off, but that's what the 49ers have here. They've got 2 weeks off. I personally think when you've played, 16 games already plus 3 preseason games, so you've played 19 games, you're planning on playing 22 games and getting all the way to the Super Bowl. A couple weeks off in a sport like football where it's a real head knocker, you'd think they would appreciate that. But the 49ers, I think the players definitely do. It is interesting. Steve Young, voiced some concern over Brock Purdy sitting out 3 weeks. And I love Steve, and Steve's a smart guy, and obviously he knows a lot about it. But I just think it's a case-by-case basis. And if you really look at Brock Purdy, the most games he's ever played in college, I think, was 13. This is his first full year in the NFL. He's already played 18 games. If they're going to go to the Super Bowl and win it, he will have played 21 games. The most pass attempts he's ever had in a season at any level was 475 pass attempts. He's already at 459 right now. I like the way Purdy looked off the bye week in week 1 against the Steelers. I really like the way that Purdy looked off the bye week late in the year against Jacksonville. I thought that was the game that kind of showed his most arm strength. So I'm not afraid. And Purdy was like, hey, you know what? We talked about it. It was a discussion. People try to press him on it and say, well, what did you say? How do you feel about it? You don't seem like the kind of guy that wants to sit around and wait and watch. And he's like, hey, we had a conversation. So, everybody's dinged up this time of year. I mean, they've been playing football in practicing football since, almost the 4th of July. I mean, seriously, it's January. So, I mean, I would imagine every single one of these guys won't actually feel like themselves for 3, 4, 5 weeks. The quarterback's not banging heads like the lineman, but still, he's got bumps and bruises and things that are bothering him. And it's like, rest up, clear your fatigue, heal your body of all the minor ailments and bruises. And it's not, he said, hey, look, it's not like I'm going to be sitting on the couch. I'm going to be practicing. Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy this week split the first team reps. So even though Sam's starting, he didn't get all the first team reps. Half of them went to Brock Purdy. So I don't really think that the rest is going to be a problem. I think it's going to be a positive for Brock Purdy. And then I guess my counter to Steve or to anybody who said, I'm really concerned would be like, you know what? To me, this is a discussion of what can you live with? What can you live with? And I can live with, him being rusty in a divisional round game at home for a series or two over, what happens if he pulled a muscle, calf muscle, hamstring muscle, and he doesn't have his normal quickness and mobility? That would hurt his skill set and hurt his value proposition. What if he got knocked out? What if he missed the game? I think the Niners Super Bowl chances go right out the window. I mean, I like the 49ers. I think they're a good team. They got a lot of talent. I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. I don't necessarily even think they're going to the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. So, it's just Brock's playing at a really high level, and protecting his health, I think, is a smart thing to do. So I'm in favor of sitting him out. The Niners, of course, will not play in the wild card round, and then they will get the lowest remaining seed. And that means they could, in the divisional round, and that means that they could take on this Ram team. If the Rams somehow, they're going to be, either the 6th seed or the 7th seed. So the Rams clinched a wild card berth last week, and all that's on the line for them this week is whether or not they will be the 6th seed with a win or a Green Bay loss, or the 7th seed with a loss to the 49ers and a Green Bay win. So either way, though, the Rams may play the Niners in the playoffs. So this game's really a tricky game on a lot of fronts. On one hand, you don't want, you want to compete. You want to win every game you play. As simple as that. But at the same time, there's all kinds of things that you want to, there's a certain way you want this game to come down. You don't want to get blown out by a team that you may have to play in a couple weeks. That's for sure. You want to be competitive. And yet, if you had some awesome play that you had designed to go against the Rams, you probably don't want to use it this week. So it's like, and then for Kyle Shanahan, you got the question of, who do I play? Who do I not play? Well, that decision's not nearly as hard because this isn't preseason game number 3. It's not like you can just say, hey, all the starters sit it out and we got a 90-man roster and all the backups will play. You don't have that luxury. Only 2 guys can be called off the practice squad to play in this scenario. And we'll discuss that later on as far as which 2 that will be. They'll make that announcement later on today and make that public. But Coach and I will speculate on that in a bit. But, so you don't have the ability to sit everybody like you would in a preseason game. But at the same time, you want to sit all your injured players, and then you're only dressing a certain number of guys. So then you're going to start with your remaining starters. And at some point, I would imagine in the game, you may go to your backups. But then you got to decide when that is. And can you get through the rest of the game with your backups? Because the last thing you want to do is start, I don't know, fill in the blank, Javon Hargrave. You start Javon Hargrave. You pull him out and you go with somebody else at halftime. And then that guy gets hurt. And now Javon takes off his tape and he's on the sidelines and he's yucking it up with his teammates and he's having a good time and he's cold. Oh, Javon, Givens just had a pull, Sebastian Joseph Day just had a cramp. Get in there. Now you're asking a guy to jump back in the fray and he is cold. And, so you really got to make sure this is a very complicated game. You don't want to show too much. You don't want to lose. You don't want to get anybody hurt. You want to make sure you play your backups, but you don't want to then go back to your starters late in the game. So, there's a lot going on here. If you have a great play or a great idea that you think is going to work against the Rams, do you use it here? Probably not. Right? You're not going to use it here. You might play them in a couple weeks. So it's just the whole thing is kind of, it's clunky. And one of the things that I'd love to see them do is allow the teams that get in this position, like the 49ers. You've been so good through 16 weeks or 17 weeks of football, 16 games, that week 18 has no meaning to you. Well, then you should be able to empty your practice squad. There's 16 guys there. You should be able to call up 16 guys and put them on the field. Why not? I mean, To me, it makes perfect sense, and it should be the advantage of truly clinching early is that you can use the entirety of your practice squad. But they don't have that rule in the books right now, and so that's just not the way it's going to go. Now, as far as the Rams, Sean McVay has always been known as a guy who does not play any of his significant regulars one snap in the preseason. He is the rest over rust poster child. I mean, seriously, he doesn't care about being rusty in week one. And I get his mindset. His mindset is, you know what? You spend a lot of money on your roster in the NFL. We want to make sure our money plays in week one. So we're going to make sure that our guys are ready in week one. And that's been his philosophy in the preseason. His game plan in this one is to rest several key players. So Matthew Stafford, as we said before, they're going with Carson Wentz. They're not going to go with Stafford. Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, the linebacker Ernest Jones. From what I'm hearing, he's going to rest all those guys. So the Rams in the first round are either going to play at Dallas, they're going to play Detroit or Philadelphia in that wild card round. And it's interesting when you look, how he's going to go about it. To me, my read on it is it sounds like he's almost saying bring on Dallas and trying to avoid Detroit. McVay was quoted this week. He says, I think when you look at the projections, I think they are all excellent teams regardless. Taking all that into consideration, didn't really feel like the other side of it to try to do something to maintain the sixth or know you would be in the seventh or know you could be the seventh was best for our team. So he's just going to let it play out, and he's going to rest the guys he wants to rest. And so he's going with Carson Wentz, and Wentz has started 92 games in his career. He's definitely happy for a chance to play. He had to wait till November to sign with the team, and now he's got to wait till the season finale to actually get some action. So Wentz was quoted this week. He said, for me, it's just go play, have fun, try to help this team win. I know it's a different circumstance. It's week 18. It's all those things, but my job is to still go out there and try to help this team win and figure out all that later on. But I'm enjoying it and excited for it. So, this is going to be an interesting football game on a lot of fronts. All I would say is if you are a betting person, maybe stay away. Maybe stay away from this game. It's just too hard to predict. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's going to come out and get the upper hand. And once again, I don't know what I think the 49ers starters are better than the Rams starters. Clearly, that's why the Niners are 12-4, and that's why the Rams are 9-7. But I also think the Niners backups are better than the Rams backups. But once again, what's Kyle going to show? If the Rams somehow win their wild card game, there's a distinct possibility they return to Levi's for the rematch against the Niners in the divisional round. And so, I would imagine what you're going to see is a much simpler game plan from the 49ers, maybe a lot of running. I'll tell you what I want to see is I want to see J.P. Mason. And that's really the first thing I want to get into this morning is who are you eager to see? Because I'm eager to see J.P. Mason. And to me, it's like, let me see a guy who I think should have played a lot more this year. And, it's like Christian McCaffrey's dinged up in week 18 and you're on the verge of going to the playoffs and he's dinged up and he's one of your best players. He probably could have been healthier if they had just run Elijah Mitchell more. He probably could have been healthier if they had run J.P. Mason more. But Kyle Shanahan's very stubborn about that. I asked him, whatever week it was, week 4, 5, 6. I'm like, Christian McCaffrey's on pace for 400 touches. Do you feel like you should make it? I said, is his, usage sustainable? And do you want to get some of your other guys in there? And he just kind of was like, hey, he's our running back, and we like to throw it to him too. And so we're going to use him. But it just to me it seems like, okay, well, they got to this point and McCaffrey's hurt, and they really lucked out that he's not done for the year. So it's like, I don't know. To me, that doesn't seem like the best game plan. That just doesn't seem like the best game plan. It's like, let's run our really special MVP candidate running back into the ground, despite the fact we have other backs, and just hope that he doesn't suffer the kind of injury that is going to cost him his season. I mean, McCaffrey got to week 18, he's dinged up. He's not going to play today. But he easily could have been out for the year. And now you're going to go into the playoffs with Elijah Mitchell and JP Mason. Now, I like Elijah Mitchell. He's coming off a really nice game against the Commanders. I like JP Mason. I think he's got a lot of talent. But the Niners' chances of winning the Super Bowl drop dramatically if you don't have Christian McCaffrey. And I just thought it was really, borderline reckless on Kyle's part to just run him and use him the way he did this year when he had other guys. I asked Chris Kosaric I said, hey, man, you got Hargrave and you got Armstead and, you got Bosa and, you got this great defensive line. Your backups are not quite as good because you gave that money to Hargrave. Are you going to run your top defensive line out there, more snaps this year? He's like, no. I'm going to rotate my guys because if I don't, they're not going to get to the playoffs healthy. So it's like, you understand the need to rotate Hargrave and Bosa, but there's no need to rotate McCaffrey. And now here we get to week 18. And if you had to play the playoffs today, would McCaffrey be able to go? Is McCaffrey 100% right now? So I don't know. Shanahan knows a lot more football than I do, but I don't get it. To me, I have not understood their usage. It's like, is the plan to get Christian the MVP, or is the plan to get the Niners the 6th Lombardi trophy? Because he's hurt in week 18. And if the playoffs were today, would he go? I don't know. That to me is the weird part about this year is the way he used Christian McCaffrey. It was almost like the way Steve Kerr uses Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. It's like, who's coaching the team? Are you coaching the team? Is Christian coaching the team? Who's deciding when Christian plays? You, Bobby Turner, or Christian? And I get the sense it's a little bit of Christian. It's Christian's making the call. If he wants to play, he's in there. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. Adam says Kyle won't rotate CMC because CMC won't let him. I know. Strawberry reacts as Larry's acting like he's out for the season. No, Larry's not. Larry's just saying he's out in week 18 and he could be out for the season. And they gave him so many touches that you easily could have lost him. All I would say is this. I've been watching Niner football for decades. I don't remember a playoff run when Steve Young was in there that Steve Young wasn't healthy for the playoffs. Don't remember that. I don't remember a playoff run when Joe Montana wasn't in there. Don't remember that. But now you got a situation where you've got Christian McCaffrey, and if the playoff games were today, he wouldn't be in there. It's all about nothing. People are like, "Oh, you're sounding like the sky is falling and this and that." No, I'm just bringing up the fact that if you didn't have depth, that would be bad. The Niners basically went through this season like their backup running back wasn't any good. When their backup running back's good, they went through their season like the third string running back cannot be trusted. When the third running back can be trusted. So it was a weird situation. Luckily, it didn't burn them. Luckily, they'll have McCaffrey for the playoffs. We bring in the coach. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Larry. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
All over the place, man. Just got back from running around, took the dog out, came home, rushing to you in the middle of a storm, and the power was out. So had to get the power back on, but we're good to go, man.
What kind of storm?
It's like hail and rain. It's supposed to snow today. Like winter's coming here. It's getting nasty.
Wow.
It's getting nasty. So we've got usually we get like a rainy season right when winter starts here, and it rains, but it's really snow, but the ground is too hot from all of summer. So the ground isn't cold enough yet to really let anything stick. So now that you're starting to see like the ground is getting tougher, the terrain is getting a little bit more permafrost over. Now that rain is coming down as hail and the ground is colder, so it's going to start sticking. So as you can see, this ain't my first rodeo. It's about to start coming. Snow's coming.
Seriously, that's the privilege of living on the West Coast, is that it's just, want to call it privilege, call it whatever. Life's a little easier weather-wise.
Right.
I mean, it's, some people come out here and say it's boring, because every day, like the Bay Area, whatever it is today, it's maybe a little cloudy. It's instead of being, in the summertime, it might be 70. Now in the wintertime, it's 50, 49 or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
There will be no snow. We do get a lot of rain actually sometimes after New Year's, but it's basically just it's almost always between 55 and 75 all the time. All the time.
You lucky bastard.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'm lucky, because if you like the seasons, I mean, what do you like? The variety? Do you like these storms? Do you like the heat? Do you like the variety? Or if you could make it more mild throughout the year, would you take that?
I would say, man, like, all right, so I spent some time out west.
Where out west?
I'm in Irvine.
Irvine, okay, LA.
Yeah. So like I get the weather, the climate, I get that. But the air quality is completely different from out here in the East Coast to the West Coast. So I'll give it to you guys. You guys have great weather, right?
Right.
And you really don't have that many like
we have
environmental disasters. You guys get forest fires, you guys get earthquakes, right?
But you can't plan for the earthquake.
Yeah, exactly. That's just
spontaneous. It could happen like right now.
Yeah, you just got to ride it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in a way, there really is no earthquake season. I don't know. I don't know if I'm speaking out of school, but for me, I like the seasons because it does something to like the environment around you. So like if it's hot, right? In a way, you can't wait for winter to come to kind of like kill off all of like the debris in the winter. Things die, everything falls off. Then when you get spring, you can tell the air gets crisper. The night is much more clearer. Like the days are longer. Like I like this. I like the seasons, right? Because it makes you kind of prepare for, you kind of like know where you're at. Out and where you guys are at, dude. I remember it's
foggy in August.
It's foggy as hell, and it's like broad daylight, and it's just like, why the hell does it feel like there's like a haze over everything? And after a while, you get used to it. If you're out there for like maybe like a week or two, you get completely used to it, right? So it's not like perpetual, but it's like every time I go out there, I feel like I'm in like a GTA video game. Like I feel like it's like GTA. It's like hazy. And out here, we do get a lot of humidity because like I live off of, I live in Maryland. So I live right off of the Atlantic, and the Chesapeake. But at the same time, there is something about when the seasons do change, you can kind of feel like things get fresh. Like it's like a revitalization of things. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I feel like it's just hot all the time out there. Like everything gets beat down by the sun.
Well, it depends. I mean, we have the microclimates here. Like Niner Banks is go to Tahoe and enjoy the snow. The Bay Area does have seasons. But it's really more San Francisco, like where I live in Walnut Creek, right? So we're 25 minutes east of the water.
Okay.
It gets hot out here. I mean, it's it's hotter than I grew up in the Sunset District of the city, right? Literally 15 blocks from the edge of the continent, right there off the Pacific Ocean. And it was foggy and cold in the summertime, and then it's hot as heck in the like fall, like September, October. And then the rest of the year is just kind of mild. November's pretty, it gets 40 and it rains or whatever, but it doesn't. But the next day could be 70. I mean, you could have and it's, in Southern California, you get like 75 degrees on Christmas Day. And it's warmer. The baseline's warmer. Where my son goes to school down at Cal Poly, I think that in some ways is the best climate. It's like it's a warmer baseline than San Francisco, but it's coastal. So it's still, you get that maritime, you get that cool nights, maybe some hot days, but some very, very cool nights. Coach, what do you expect in? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, I saw somebody put in here about the beaches and stuff. I did go to Newport Beach, and Newport Beach was awesome. Like that was a
nice
experience. So I love the beach culture out there. Like, you guys, that's something that we don't have. Like, you guys could just pull up to ocean. Like, that's not something that's like readily available out here, unless you go to like Ocean City, or you can go to like,
what's the best coastal spot within like 150, 200 miles of you? Like, I know there's Maryland has its coast, Virginia has its coast, the Carolinas have their coast. I got a buddy who lives kind of on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. He's always saying, check that out. Then of course we know about South Carolina and all the golfing, and that's a little warmer, right? Well, if I said, Coach, pick a cool, resort weekend beach location in the summertime, where do you want to go? Is
money an object?
Not really. No, just, I mean, you can go anywhere you want.
Hamptons.
So you're going north.
Yeah. If money is not an object, you go to the
Hamptons. What makes the Hamptons so damn good?
Well, number one, it's
that's where the pretty people hang, right?
The area, yeah.
People wearing white linen clothes.
Yeah, it's a really cool experience if you have the bread. If you want to have like real fun, you got to go to like Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach, Outer Banks. For sure. I like Virginia Beach more than Myrtle Beach, but Myrtle Beach is on the low. If you go to Myrtle Beach on like an off-season type deal, like for spring instead of summer, you can have some real good fun at Myrtle Beach. And Outer Banks is kind of like a way of passage out here on the East Coast. Like, everybody's been to the Outer Banks, right? And then if you want to go like local beach out here, you would go to like Eastern Shore in Maryland, right? So that would be like up towards like Annapolis, yeah, like past Annapolis, Eastern Shore. But then there's also Annapolis, but that's not beachy. That's more like fish country, like fisherman country. Like, they're like sailors out there. Yeah. So, but also, if you really want to do kind of like that, if you really want to be on like your boat shit, Potomac, Maryland. You know what I'm saying? So Potomac, Maryland is really nice. And that's where you can pretty much have like your lay of the land as far as like being on the sea. So Annapolis, Potomac for getting on a boat. If you want to actually do some deep sea fish diving and like really have a blast, I would say go to Myrtle Beach. I would say go to Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is always cool. If you want to have something with like your girlfriend and it's like, let's say you want to get married or you want to have something like really upscale, I would go to the Hamptons. And if you want like good family fun where it's like a staycation and you just want to just go with a couple of your friends or maybe take your kids, I would say Outer Banks or Eastern Shore.
Sean Wilford. Is this the 49er podcast or the Weather Channel? Mike J. Look at this one. Weather talk is like old people playing bingo at a bingo hall. B49. Blackout. I'll give that person the prize.
Cape Cod is nice too.
Cape Cod.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my sisters told me about that. I got to get out there. We've been having huge swells of water, by the way. If you live on the coast anywhere on the West Coast right now, huge waves, lots of flooding on the coast, huge high tides the last couple of days. Capitola, Santa Cruz, Pacifica, all the places in Northern California just getting beaten down. LA, San Diego, you've seen some of the pictures of the flooding. All right, let's talk a little 49ers. Should we talk a little Niners? What do you expect in this game? I started off the stream just talking about how this game is a weird game. Like if you're a gambler, I would say stay away from this game. I think the Niners are 4-point favorites, but I think it's a stay away weekend in the NFL for the most part. It's just hard to predict who's going to show up, who's not going to show up. I've looked at some of the betting trends. Sometimes the teams that need to win in week 18 fall prey to the teams that have nothing to play for at all. So it's a very difficult weekend to kind of predict. Like the Ravens are playing the Steelers today, and the Steelers are favored over the Ravens at 1:30 Pacific by 3 points. And yet the Ravens haven't lost in a long time. The Ravens are 13-3. The Ravens are at home. They're 6-2. The Steelers are not nearly as good, but they need to win, I think, or they would like to win for playoff seeding and how it all shakes out. And yet Tyler Huntley's a pretty good quarterback, and the Steelers are favored by 3. I don't know about that. I mean, where the Ravens going to lay down? I know there's no Lamar, but I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's like this is a very, very difficult week to predict
because there's nothing to play for essentially.
Right.
I just this is kind of on the league, in my opinion, right? We're fans, we covered the game, but we are fans, and it's our job to be able to be truthful about where the competitive context lies inside of each week, right? And it's hard to do that when you feel as though that the games really don't matter. I don't want to get on this whole tangent about the 17 games because that's not the point. But for right now, just the way the cookie crumbles and how things have fallen out, there's really nothing to really bear out as far as where teams are in the playoff standings. And there is something to be said about resting your guys versus playing your guys. But I feel like that's the real narrative, not is this game competitive, right? Because whoever wins or loses this game, nothing changes for anybody. So I feel like the real conversation is how are we going to play our last real action before essentially having a 3-week bye, right? So they're not really going to play this week, right? And they're going to have a full bye before the playoffs start. So really, this is our last time seeing these boys for a while, if you think about it, right? So this is going to be, for me, I'm going to be gauging this game and trying to read the tea leaves for what the layout is on this time off that they're going to have. That's the big motive for me, right? Like, who wins or loses this game doesn't necessarily strike me, but I'm going to be paying attention to who he does choose to start. Who does Kyle choose to play early? Who does he pull? Who does he pull early? Who does he decide needs to play a whole game that's a starter? Who doesn't he? Why? I'm going to be ready to talk about those situations and maybe keeping track of what happens in this game and then kind of bearing out, well, all right, we saw that Christian didn't play all of week 17. He's had essentially 3 weeks off, right? And he should be ready to go coming into our opening game with whoever we see in the first round. I mean, in the second round of the playoffs, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking at. It'd be this, you know what I'm saying, Larry? Like, it would be disingenuous to really try to competitively go at this game. Like, who's going to win?
I mean, that's why I'm saying don't bet it. I mean, don't bet it. But
it would be crazy to bet this game.
It's a weird thing. And I was mentioning before you jumped in was just that, okay, so I'm looking at the Niner depth chart and the way it's penciled out. They say probably no Juwan Jennings, no Trent Williams, no Brock Purdy, no Christian McCaffrey. Ross Dwelly still has that high ankle sprain. He's not going to go. That's on offense. On defense, no Eric Armstead, No Jair Brown, still has the knee sprain. No
Yep.
Ambry Thomas.
Yep.
Everybody else on the defense, I think, is going to go. You saw it. We'll get into the Jason Verrett injury, but he's out for the year now. Hurt his shoulder in practice. That's so unfortunate. Jalen Moore is kind of an interesting guy up front because I think he's I saw him in the locker room and he seemed to be in good spirits. And I think
how's that concussion coming?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's been in the last 24 hours, there's been indications that Trent Williams is not going to go and Jalen Moore is the backup at left tackle. So to me, that says that Jalen Moore is going to go. So I think Moore is going to go and Williams is going to sit. So it's like, now we have a somewhat of a handle on who's going to go. But then you also have, the fact of the matter is the Niners could easily play the Rams in the playoffs. So Kyle's not going to want to show anything. And then you've got only so many guys that you can put in the game. And so you might want to go to your backups at some point. But then you got to make sure that if your starters come out of the game and kind of cool off, that they don't have to get forced back in the game because of an injury. So, I mean, you got to play your starters a decent amount of time. I don't know. It's a really weird game. I mean, if you had a great plan of attack against the Rams, would you even use it? Knowing that if the Rams, pull an upset.
Yeah, we're literally about to see him again.
Yeah, it'll be the Rams and Niners at Levi's in the divisional round in 3 weeks. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how this is a very odd game to kind of handicap. And it's a hard game to really just break down and say, it's going to be this or it's going to be that. And every coach may handle things a little differently. And so, you don't know exactly how Shanahan's going to handle things. I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect in this game. The Rams, by the way, if you just looked at them when they're playing all their top players, they've scored 24 points or more now in 6 straight games. There's only 3 teams in the league all season that have done that: the Niners, the Ravens, and the Rams. So, that the Rams in the playoffs could be quite a bit different with Stafford than the Rams, that team that we see tomorrow. So it's like I'm not even sure what to expect. It's like I'm not even sure what to root for other than health. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But I really don't care. I've seen the Niners get destroyed in week 18, and it means nothing. I've seen them absolutely annihilate teams in week 18, and that means nothing. So I don't know. I mean, Shanahan and the coaches, Wilkes and others have said, hey, we want to go into the playoffs with some momentum. But come on, man. If you don't play your starting quarterback or your MVP candidate running back or your best defensive lineman or one of your top corners and your left tackle, are you really putting your best foot forward? I mean, but maybe it would give the team confidence if they won big anyway, despite the fact they're playing all their backups or playing their backups a large percentage of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure exactly how to gauge this one tomorrow.
All right. Well, I'll say this. This would be a good game to see where our depth is, right? I'd like to see us win a game with depth. That would be good. That would be cool to see. It'd be good to see Jordan Mason get a full game, right?
What if he gets a full game, coach, and he dominates? Doesn't that? Oh, if you're Kyle, doesn't that immediately beg the question of where the hell has this guy been all year?
No, because football is not a one-game sport. That's the thing that sucks about football, is that it sucks and it's cool, but it's like you could do it once, right? But immediately everybody's going to go to the consistency. And there's too many things around this game that would just validate Jordan Mason 200-yard day, right? If he had all right, let's say, all right, what would be crazy for you? With dominates. For me, dominating would be 20 plus carries. Let's put him at 23, 24 carries.
Anything over $150, man. If you
180.
The guy rumbles for 23 carries for 170 and 2 touchdowns. I think that's going to make people in the post game go,
Yeah,
maybe we
but it's only one game,
Jordan
though.
Mason. We should have seen Jordan Mason.
It's hard to say that where we still, but what did we lose?
Well,
What did we lose by not playing him? You see what I'm saying? Like, we got the number 1 seed. Everybody's relatively healthy. What did we lose by the usage of Jordan Mason? Kyle still got him up his sleeve for when he does use them. He could that could be a gigantic fuck you to us, right? It's like, yeah, well, I used him. I finally used him, and he was great. Now shut up. You know how Kyle is. He's definitely going to use that angle.
Yeah, but I mean, your CMC is right now dinged up, so it's like, you know, I think if Jordan Mason goes off, it begs the question of, man, you could have had a healthier CMC come playoff time if you had just utilized this cat. Instead, you didn't, and now we're hoping that CMC can rest up in a week and be fresh enough to be himself come playoff time. I'm just saying they took a risk. They took a risk by playing McCaffrey as much as they did this year, and it's probably going to work out. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see JP Mason, because Mason to me looks talented, fresh, energetic, and ready to rumble. And I think the only thing that's been keeping JP Mason down is Kyle Shanahan. If JP Mason actually played, I think he would have been really good. And if he plays in this game, I think he's going to show everybody what he really is. And people are going to be like, what the heck? Where was this guy all year? I mean, think about it. If you had another, let's just say, to me, if you say, why, Krueger, what does he look like to you? He looks like Marshawn Lynch. He looks like a powerful 240-pound rumbler, kind of bow-legged, but fast, tough, good body lean, tons of energy, lots of second effort, all kinds of power, run through. So we're going to run through arm tackles. He's going to have all kinds of yards after contact. I'm not saying he's beast mode, but he's in that, like, if you've never seen him before and I'm trying to describe him, I'd say, yeah, man, it's kind of like he's kind of like a Marshawn Lynch. Maybe even a little bigger, right? What was Marshawn? 220, 225?
You know what he reminds me of?
Who?
Marion Barber.
Yeah, that's a good call. I've used that comparison in the past.
Yeah,
you're right.
I think Marshawn
kind of runs upright, runs hard.
Yeah, Marshawn, I feel like everybody that runs hard kind of gets like the beast mode moniker. But one thing about Marshawn that I feel like he was very special that I don't think Jordan Mason has is Marshawn had a remarkable center of gravity. Like, he had such a wide base, and it was so hard to
great feet.
Remarkable feet. He was a jump cut slasher with crazy vision. He could deliver a blow off either shoulder, off either foot. There was never a time where you could catch him off, kilter, and he wasn't ready to be rooted into the ground and deliver a blow. I mean, he was a menace. Marshawn Lynch was a special runner, but Marion Barber was a special runner too. But I feel like Marion Barber was more his acceleration to the point of attack was what really kind of built his physicality. Marion Barber wasn't that big of a back, but he was remarkably physical. He was always trying to go downhill. He broke tackles, but he wasn't a tackle breaker. You know what I mean? Like, people had to get hands on him and then he would break those tackles, but he wasn't necessarily running through people like Marshawn was. And that's what I kind of see out of Jordan. Marshawn was special, but Jordan is more of, if I see you, I'm going to run through you, right? And I need a good head of steam. I need those 3 steps to get to the line of scrimmage so I can hit a crease and bust it wide open. Marshawn was more along the lines of, I'm going to pick and pop and slash, and if you get in my way, you're going to feel something, but I'm trying to score. Marshawn, the thing about Marshawn is that he was very physical, but in his prime, he was a home run hitter. He had a home run threat. I don't see that out of Jordan, but I do see that physicality out of Marion Barber with Jordan Mason. I see that. And Marion Barber was a dog up front. I mean, do you remember that play? What was it? Monday night? It was a Monday night game, I believe. Marion Barber ran like 22 yards to get a 3-yard gain. He like backed up, got pushed back into the end zone, broke like 4 or 5 tackles. I want to say it was versus the Eagles. This is off the top of my head right now. Pause. But what I'm saying is that I feel like that Marion Barber is more akin to Jordan Mason. Still great runners. Still great runners.
You know, it's interesting. You said that Mason is not necessarily going to run away from you, or he had a 26-yard run against, was it Dallas? Was it Dallas that he ran 26 yards for the touchdown? He also in his career has a 55-yard run. So he I'm
maybe we got to see that.
I'm wondering how good Jordan Mason really is. I'm wondering, and I think I can't. To me, the one thing I want to see, give him 5 carries. Give him 5 carries in a row. Give him a few. Let him get a rhythm. And I'll tell you this: what I loved last week the most about the Commanders game was Elijah Mitchell. I love the way he ran, man. He was terrific last week.
If anybody was at the game, I was cheering like a goddamn senior cheerleader for Elijah Mitchell at that game. I was so happy for him, bro. And he was feeling it, Larry. He stood on his feet the entire game. He did not sit down. He was by the offensive line. I'm talking about he was with his dogs. You could tell that he was in the zone, dog. Like, Elijah Mitchell looked really good against the Commanders. It was good to just see him have a day. Seeing him in person, he's impressive. He's impressive. He's stocky. He's got a good base. He's got some good old oak arms. I like him. I really hope that he stays healthy, man. Being able to see him run and get downhill. He runs behind his pads, plays much bigger than his frame. But for today's NFL, he's more, let's start looking at it this way. You know, one thing that I've noticed from seeing the boys with my own eyes.
Yeah, because you were there last week.
Yeah. One thing that I've noticed is that sometimes we scout these guys from an archetype of athlete that just doesn't exist in the league anymore, right? So we say an Elijah Mitchell is a small back, really? But the truth of the matter is that we say that Elijah Mitchell's a small back juxtaposed off of what the SOP for running backs has always been, right? Compared to the full spectrum of backs, he is a smaller back, right?
He's 200 pounds.
Right. But in today's league, that's an all-purpose back.
I mean, Emmett Smith about 205, 210, something like that?
Yeah. Like, exactly. In today's league, you can't really look at it. You can't really look at smaller guys as, not necessarily bigger backs, because you got guys like Jahmyr Gibbs being backs right now, right? And Jahmyr Gibbs is a small guy. You know what I mean? So for me, being able to just look at Elijah, put my eyes on him, like literally 10 feet away from him, looking at him, he's impressive. I like his body, and he can be physical. I was really happy to see him. You could tell, man, he had way more. Like, honestly, if that game could have went 5-10 quarters, Elijah Mitchell could have still got more carries. He was very juiced up in that game. I was happy for him, man.
Oh, and he had rhythm, and he was making guys miss, and second effort, and I'm an Elijah Mitchell fan. And it's funny, I was talking to a beat writer of the Niners the day before the McCaffrey trade, and I said, man, there's a lot of talk they're going to trade for McCaffrey. And he's like, oh, no, I don't think they're going to trade for McCaffrey. I'm like, really? Why not? He's like, they don't need him. They don't need him. They got Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson. So and we laugh now at that because obviously McCaffrey is great and Wilson's moved on and Mitchell's more of a backup. But that's where Mitchell was thought. Mitchell, we changed our thoughts after we saw what McCaffrey has been in this offense. Always Drip 805 says, I want to see Ronnie Bell. I want to see Tay Martin, Danny Gray, Braden Willis, Jordan Mason, D. Winters, Jalen Graham play this weekend. I agree with Always Drip.
You know what? I don't like Always Drip because he be grinding my beef all the time. But I agree with this comment, man. I agree with this. I agree with this, Drip. Like, these are exactly the guys who we need to see. It's time for us to see. It's time for us to kind of stretch our legs. Like, if you don't want to exhaust the playbook, right? Let's because I've seen you alluding to this, Larry, and I really do agree with that. Kyle's come up with a little bit of a conundrum because he needs to play a game, but he virtually could see these guys in a couple of weeks. So he can't put everything out there. So if you are going to play a game that's basic, right, in nature, why not play the boys who need to be able to show what they can do with the basics? And that is your depth. Right. So if you're going to have a vanilla game plan out there, then why not put Braden Willis out there? Why not put Danny Gray, Tabor? Why not throw the guys out there and say, all right, you got a chance now. Right. These are the things that you guys have been doing all year in practice. You guys have been repping this stuff out all throughout camp, and you never really get a chance to get these types of reps. Right. These are routes that are used. These are concepts that are usually for Debo, Tay Martin. These are concepts that are usually for Brandon Ayuk, Ronnie Bell. These are concepts that are usually for George Kittle that you don't see Braden Willis. And now you guys get a chance to kind of, wear your dad's clothes for a day, and I feel like that's the approach that I would go if I was in Kyle's position.
I was talking to Tay Martin earlier this week, and I'm like, man, you got a 100-yard day in you. You really do. And I don't know if they'll even promote him from the practice squad, but that kid's got talent. He's got ball skills. If he doesn't have big speed, he's not huge separation guy, but you get in the red zone and you need a sure-handed catch from a receiver who knows how to run a route and take a hit and, make the catch and hold on. Tay Martin can do that. He was great at Washington State. He was great at Oklahoma State. He looked good in camp. He's had strong preseason moments. But on this team, you got Debo, you got JJ, you got Ayuk. There's no room at the end. So it's hopefully Tay Martin gets out there because I really believe he could do something. And there's other guys too. Robert Beal. I think Robert Beal can do something. I think D Winters and Jalen Graham. I really in this game, Coach, more than anything, I want to see D Winters and Jalen Graham. Why? Because Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw mean so much to your playoff run. They've had so many collisions, violent collisions. And D Winters and Jalen Graham can play. And you also have Warren Burks, and you got Demetrius Flanagan Fowles. And heck, if you want to take Curtis Robinson off the practice squad, you could promote him. We're going to hear two guys today promoted off the practice squad. I asked Matt Barrows on Thursday who he thinks it's going to be. He said he thought it was going to be who did he say? He said Taylor Hawkins and Jeremy McNichols, the running back McNichols and Taylor Hawkins. And that makes sense to me, but you already got JP Mason sitting right there. I'd rather see him. Hawkins makes a lot of sense though, because you got some injuries in the secondary. All right, let's get to a real topic here. One that I think is kind of interesting. Does the 49er offense have tells? This is another year, another story about, this is the Patrick Queen.
The Patrick Queen interview. You saw that.
Yeah, Patrick Queen, for people who didn't see it, what I'm referencing here is Ravens linebacker Patrick Queen, who's a great young player, former LSU star, went on the Rich Eisen show, and he was discussing facing both the Niners and the Dolphins. And here's his quote. It's tells in what Miami does and what San Francisco does. He said San Fran does that I can't say right now, just in case we have to see those guys again. You just have to affect the quarterback. You got to get your D linemen into those lanes. Just play coverage. Don't let anybody get behind you. So, he's not going to expand on that. He didn't. He said
not yet. He said not gonna, maybe later.
He's not going to talk about it. He also said Purdy could, quote, make every throw and make all the reads, and that the Ravens were concerned about jamming all those up. In fact, Queen was very complimentary of Brock Purdy throughout the interview. He
said he deserves to be in the MVP conversation.
Right. But he said the T word, tells.
Yep.
And, if this is not the first time that we've heard about this, Jesse, Jesse and you and I have been doing the big show for the last month or so. Jesse put out one of the hottest moments of his channel was when he put out the different stances from Trent Williams and the tells that went into those. And some people debunked that, later on. Trent himself said, "Oh, it's nonsense." But you could see what Jesse was pointing to when he made his argument. Then you can go even further back, and Richard Sherman brought up that Jimmy Garoppolo had a tell, and he basically said that when Garoppolo patted the football, that he was going to throw it, and yet Garoppolo kept patting the football, and the Niners, and he said this in like 2018. The next year, Garoppolo and the Niners were in the Super Bowl. So I guess I'll throw it to you this way. Do you believe that Patrick Queen is, all I'll say is this. If they had the tell on the 49ers, then why did the Niners pile up 421 yards of offense in that game? If they really had the tells where they could turn off the Niner water, then how come the Niners had such big numbers rushing and passing in that game? That, I don't know that I would say the interceptions were all fluky, but a couple of them were. How concerned are you that the 49ers have easily to identify tells in their offense in any phase, running, passing, in any way?
I think it's up front. You got to run football from the inside out. There are a couple of things that I feel like are just ingrained in the game of football that you cannot deny. And just like I know, Larry, you've been in the game longer than I have. If you can't block it, you can't run it. That's the way football works, especially offensively. And there are pressure packages that the Ravens were using against our offensive line that were kind of putting us in conundrums. Now, the picks notwithstanding, I get it. A lot of those were tipped, Brock pressing, Kyle not adjusting. So I'm not going to go into like the whole tinfoil hat rabbit hole of, there's a definite key that unravels this whole thing, because that's the elephant in the room, right? That's the dog whistle when you say somebody has a tell. The tell is, that means that they know the entire offense now. No, a tell is something that could just tip to a pass or a run. A tell can tip to whether they're going to go what side of the field that the ball is going to. A tell doesn't necessarily mean that they know the offense. So let's I'll give you an example of a tell.
Let me give you one example of a tell. When I was coaching and scouting in the Canadian League, we played the Las Vegas Posse. Great. Okay. Well, this is the American expansion of the CFL in the mid-90s. We're playing the Las Vegas Posse. They had former Florida State wide receiver Tamarick Vanover. Do you remember Tamarick Vanover?
No.
Wide receiver, really athletic, really, really fast. But he was really young, kind of an immature guy. I watched, they told me, Krug, here's the Posse's last 3 games. Go spend the rest of the day, sit in that room, roll that thing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and come away with something that will help us win the effing game. I mean, it was like I was just like the bottom of the totem pole guy, right? So they just threw my day away and said, go watch Vegas Posse film and find a tell. Find something. Give us something that can help us win. So I watched and I watched and I watched and I watched and I watched. I mean, literally, Coach, 10 hours of watching. And I found something. On plays that were going to be pass plays, he had these big loopy Velcro connectors to his gloves, right?
Yeah, he would redo them.
And so you could pull it almost like batting gloves, but just his receiver gloves had a big a big loopy, connector Velcro thing. When they were running the ball, he left it flopping in the wind. You could see
He didn't care.
He would come out of the huddle, walk over to his position, and it was loose. When it was a pass play away from him, he would do the same thing. When it was a pass play and he was a primary, he tightened that thing up and was like, you could see him working it coming out of the huddle, and he cinched it tighter. And he's like, you could see him. He was like going like this with his hands. He was really trying to
get ready to get a ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I said, Coach, I think I got one for you. I think I got one. I think he almost thought I was full of it. Like, they were throwing away my day because I was such a young scout. And they're like, he's like, so they are coaches, come on in the room. Krug's got something.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm under pressure. And I go, well, I don't know if this is anything.
That's the way it works, though. They gang up on you. They almost treat us like kickers on the low.
On the low level, it's like, let us do the real stuff. You just mess around.
Make the pick.
Like, so I cut 7 or 8 snaps. I'm like, here you go. Here's 4 snaps of run plays. Here's 4 snaps of pass plays. And I showed them out of the huddle, and I zoomed in, and I'm like, look at him tightening up his gloves. Look at him grabbing his hands. Look at him. He's like preparing to catch the ball on pass plays. On run plays, the gloves are loose. They're flopping in the wind. We used it. It came true every time. This guy would come out of the huddle. He's got these gloves that are flapping. Our guys are just glancing over to him, and we're reading run. Key and run.
Uh-huh.
He's tightened those things up. We're key and pass.
So what was the response?
Did they buy it? Oh no, they loved it. They were like, they gave me a game ball. I got a game ball out of it. We destroyed them. We it's a CFL. It's a passing league, so it's a lot of passing. But the guy, he was such a young receiver. He'd only played a year or 2 at Florida State. He was a very raw receiver, and he didn't realize that he was giving away run pass. That was a tell that I identified, told the guys about. We used it, and we also had other tells, like for teams where, we're literally, it wasn't even a player tell, it was a coaching tell. And it was the coach. We had guys on the binoculars as they would signal in plays. They would try to kind of fool us, and we had tells from the booth, like we're watching their booth, and we could, they had things that they were giving away from the booth.
I'll give you a sneaky tell.
There are such things as tells.
Yeah, okay.
So you don't cover your footprints, and you're not really thinking about it.
Yeah, and it's not, and I feel like it's not as it's really kind of like guerrilla warfare on the low. So like when I was at Bowie State, a tell that I used to know is what I would do is in pregame, I would walk around coaches, and in pregame you're talking to opposing coaches, especially when the specials are out. And what I would do is I would kind of like glance at play sheets. So you don't have to read the play sheet, but usually play sheets are color coded, right? And they're color coded by pass run. So if you know exactly what somebody's looking at on what side of the play sheet, then all you got to do is have the binocular up during a couple of plays and get the first 10 plays out. And you're like, all right, when coach is holding the bottom of that play sheet, they're going run. All right, that's the green side of that play sheet. That's what they're going. When he holds the top of that play sheet, look at where his eyes are going. He's going to the top of that play sheet. And usually if it's run, what he does is he takes it and he folds it under his right arm and he waits because he wants to see run fit. If it's a pass play, he's just kind of listening, and you could tell he's not really in on the play right now. He's just watching. So there are tells where if you watch enough, you can really understand what's going on, and covering your mouth really doesn't do anything. Really, like you can almost kind of look at what Kyle's calling, like based on how he's holding the play sheet, right? Like if he's looking at something that he's coming back to, it's almost like he goes to an annex part of the play sheet and he holds like the bottom third of the play sheet up because he's looking at that part. versus holding like the entire play sheet, looking at it from top to bottom. So you can, yeah, there's tells all over the place if you pay attention.
The most common tell, I think, that you're going to find, and the players spot this on the field themselves, but sometimes the coaches are really good at it, and they'll remind guys, is teams that pull their guards. If you've got a veteran guard and he's pulling,
he's going to be back.
He'll deep set. He'll deep set. You look at the line of scrimmage from a bird's eye view, and you're like, you can see the right guard is like 8, 9, 10 inches further back because he's looking to get out of that hole, and he's basically just cheating up because he knows he's got to get around quickly, and he's gassed and he's tired, so he's looking for a little advantage. So
the same thing on D-line. They stunt when they're stunting, when they're not aligned on the line of scrimmage, and you know that the post or the puller, whoever's looping, they're back further versus the guy who's going to post because he wants to be able to get as much depth as possible, so the looper doesn't have to get washed out as much. They can flatten that loop to get as much real estate to the line of scrimmage. So yeah, you can look on the line of scrimmage. You could read shoulders. Guys that don't stay parallel with the line of scrimmage will tell you where the ball is going. Offensive linemen who love to get in 2-point on pass or screens or short yards, but they love to get in 3-point downs when they know they're going to have to use their body moving forward. There's tells all over the game if you watch enough.
Yeah. No, seriously. And there are people that are really good at it. There's also teams that really hide their play calling. Like, they know somebody's watching them with binoculars in the booth. And so they'll have 2 guys making signals. And if you can discern really early on in the game which guy is actually making the signals and which guy's the fake, teams feel like, well, we'll have 2 guys doing signals. We don't have to hide it that much. Well, wait a second. If we can figure it out quick, then we're not worried about Coach B doing signals, and we can check out Coach A signaling in plays. And maybe they're not even trying to hide it all that much because they figure out, well, we'll do enough by having 2 coaches, signaling in plays at the same time. Well, okay, but if we can figure out which is the fake, then you bet we're going to be able to read your plays. So I mean, there's the old saying: if you're not cheating, you're not trying. I mean, I know baseball players who could steal signs incredibly well. And I mean, they were guys who were on the bench that just were awesome at stealing signs. The Kevin Fransden, who used to work on KMBR radio, was one of the best at stealing signs and figuring out in baseball what was coming. So, but all I would say is this is the second time, Coach, that the Ravens have referenced that they had tells. You heard Kyle Van Noy on that podcast say, hey, everybody, we showed everybody the blueprint of how to defend the Niner offense. And then his, my guess was simply that they blitzed off the edges. They dropped linebackers into coverage. They dropped their safeties deep. They pretended like they were reading the receivers, but instead they were really reading the quarterback. They really clouded the windows that they thought Brock wanted to throw into. And they made it so those windows were tighter because there were more people in them. I don't know if that's a tell or if that's just reading your tendencies, knowing what a team likes to do from film study. But we're at the point in the year now, Coach, where if you really are good at film study, it's all there.
It really is. It's hiding in plain sight.
It's not week 1 or week 2. Week 1 or week 2, who knows? But now you've had months of film. And if you really do your homework, you should have some tendencies, not just for the Niners, for every team in the league. Every team in the league has tendencies, coaching tendencies, player tendencies. And if you're good enough with your film study and you got enough manpower on it and they're smart enough, sharp enough, you can figure out what your opponent wants to do and what their mindset is.
Well, I agree with you. And, this guy didn't necessarily work out. This didn't work out well for this guy that I'm about to bring up. But this isn't the first time we've heard about players who have done a little bit of self-study and deep dive on the 49ers offense, talking about how they have tells. Patrick Peterson talked about this earlier in the year, if you remember, saying that I know that he said he was going to have picks on Brock Purdy and do a great job. And he did have his opportunities a couple of times, but I'm kind of going back to an interview or a podcast that he did with Brian McFadden, former Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback, and I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the quotes that he had on what he sees from the 49ers on tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into that for a second. All right.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was on the latest episode of All Things Covered podcast with co-host and cousin Bryant McFadden. Peterson harped on that T word, tackling, time and time again. If we do a good job of tackling the guys at the point of attack, we're going to be in a good position to be able to sustain those guys from making big plays, Peterson told McFadden. Because if you go back and watch the Philadelphia Eagles game, those guys was hugging up on those checkdowns. When you give a dynamic running back 3 or 4 yards of space, he's going to make one guy miss. If we do a good job of hugging up on those checkdowns, those outlets that those guys that just hang out on the sideline, those late leak out guys, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. He also goes on to say, Peterson noted the 49ers have had the league's best yak attack this last year. They tied the Kansas City Chiefs and the Carolina Panthers for the best yak reception per last year at 6.6 yards. Peterson also goes on to say they have the number one running back, the number one tight end, the number one receiver with yards after the catch. When you think about it, the plays that Christian McCaffrey is doing, he ain't there running no post, Peterson said. He ain't running no dig. He's swinging out in the backfield. Deebo Samuels, he's not running no deep balls. He's not running the full route tree. He's running drag routes, taking 4 yards routes and taking it 80. Kittle as well. So those are some of the comments that he had before we played the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's kind of some of the things that are highlighted on what players see when they see our offense, where they're starting to see like, man, you guys are necessarily trying to take a little and make it a lot, trying to be physical, trying to push past us. You guys want to be able to leak out and get everybody behind you so we can come out from underneath. And if you think about it, essentially from the raw application of what our offense is from a passing standpoint, that really is us. We run clear out routes, and then what do we run? We run deep overs, digs, comebacks. We run underneath. We take guys deep and we run underneath, or we split the field in half and overload. We lock one guy to the side singled, we overload on the other side, and then what happens? We come off with a pass concept that either gets something coming out on the backside, on the same side as the lock side, or we have something that comes under it in a 3-tiered concept where Brock can choose 1, 2, 3, or he can get a hot to get the ball out to Christian McCaffrey or get a quick screen route. And they'll do it from a condensed standpoint, so you can't see where the guys are coming from a spread out perspective. Like, our offense is pretty redundant when you look at just the posture of what we do. It's how we get to it is what the tells would be in, right? So when we look the same way, literally every play, and we bring out the same maybe 10 formations in our offense, it's the packaging that are the tells for me. If I was going against our team and I was on defense or offense, I would be watching film on what are the packages and what are the situations, because this is a planned team. You don't have this many plays built in for these. Like, basically, if you think about it, Larry, how many plays out of the plays that we run on offense are beaters or just straight up hat on a hat, our bread and butter? You see the difference that I'm talking about? Like, hat on a hat, this is what we do. This is our identity. This is what we run even when you know it's coming, because this is what we've repped out, versus this is a section of our offense that are just beaters, stick beaters, man beaters, zone beaters, coverage beaters, where if you look at our offense, we don't really have a lot of the latter, right? The former, I mean, where we have wide zone, outside zone, we're running it. I don't care if you see it coming. This is what we do. Outside of that, a lot of the stuff that we do is beaters. So if I was a coach planning to go against the Niners, my plan would be to interrupt that plan, right? I want to get you guys to have a contemporaneous conversation with us in the now. No more what you planned for us, but I want you guys to be able to call plays that have to call that shit from the sideline. So that's where I feel like teams really want to get that. That's where they want to attack our offense. They want to take us into deep water. They want to get us away, because if we find a tail, that's really our offense, right? Finding tails on the defense. So that's the problem. Who's going to figure out who first? And really, our problem with our offense is when a defense doesn't have a tail. When you play a defense where they're stout across the board, there's no corner, there's no safety that's inept, there's no linebacker that you can put in a conundrum, there's no pass rush that you can get away from. There's nothing interior wise where you can run duo or double block somebody because the D-line is really bad, but they only have one tip of the spear guy like the Rams, or other teams like the Steelers, where you're really going to see maybe 2 to 3 good D linemen where you can engineer around these guys. That's not the Ravens, right? So that's the thing about our offense is, what is our offense going to do against a defense that isn't going to give you anything? They're going, and they're smart enough.
It's really interesting, I think, when you look at this season. The Niners have 4 losses. By the way, Last Second Sports, Jesse's in the chat. Good morning, Jesse. He says, self-scout shows them. He said, self-scout, show them what they want to see and give them something different. Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of that this time of year where not only will the Niners look at what the opposition does, they'll take the time and be like, all right, we're 17 weeks into this season, 16 games. When other people scout us, what are they seeing? And if you're a really good football team, and the Niners are, you got personnel that are giving you the self-scouting. So you have a real good idea of what teams are seeing from your statistics. And I asked Shanahan about this a month ago. I said, are you aware at all times of your tendencies? And he's like, yeah, I get all the numbers on that and what stands out. And he's looking for things that really stand out as obvious. So if we've run 100% of the time out of this formation, or and they'll try to go against their own tendencies to muddy the picture for teams scouting them. And that's something that they do consider. That's why people, when they question the play call, I'm always like, there's a lot of factors. There's a lot of factors. It could be that they're trying to run the right play. It could be that they're trying to change the scouting report for next week. I would imagine there'll be 5 or 6 or 7 or more plays in this game that will be solely meant to change the statistical breakdown for the teams that are scouting the Niners in the playoffs. And if they're really sharp, they'll separate this game and throw it out. The opposition will, and they won't really look at these tendencies, or they'll read it as what it is. The Niners trying to throw us off their scent. So there's all kinds of games that are being played, but the Niners essentially have lost 4 games all year. Okay. They lost to Cleveland in a, mucky, rainy day, where Cleveland really, Niners lost some key people, some wet weather. Cleveland's got a really good defense. So I kind of throw the Cleveland game out. Just, the Niners lost that game. I'm not saying it didn't count. It counted. I'm just saying, as far as, did Cleveland provide a template for how to beat the 49ers, or did they just win the game? I think they just won the game. So I'm throwing that one out. The Niners lost to the Vikings. I'm throwing that one out. Did the Vikings provide a template of how to beat the 49ers, or did they just win the game? I thought Kirk Cousins was just brilliant on 3rd down in that game, and the Niners couldn't get off the field defensively. So
Kirk Cousins' best primetime game of his career, quite honestly.
Yeah, it's awesome. The guy that night, he was Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, all over the place, dog. He was awesome.
I was like, who are you?
He had himself a day.
He did. I mean,
seriously, if you'd walked up to him after on the field, you would have given him a hug and be like, bro,
what the fuck was that?
You're the MF man tonight,
dog.
I mean, it was amazing. He was great.
Yo, yeah.
So that one, I don't count. To me, the Niners have 2 losses this year that should be studied, and that is the Cincinnati game and the Raven game. And both games they lost decisively. They didn't lose
Okay.
by one score. They lost by a lot. And to me, if you say what did the Bengals have a tell on the Niners? I don't think so.
No.
Did the Ravens have a tell on the Niners? I don't think so. I think the Niner offense gets derailed when you have great personnel. The Ravens had, or the Bengals had, 4 guys in their secondary that run sub 4.4, tons of speed. Niners could not run their outside zone, couldn't get to the edge. And then DJ Reader and Logan Wilson were outstanding in that game. They couldn't run it up the gut. If you can't run up the gut, you can't get to the edges, it puts tons of pressure on Purdy. Guess what happened in that game? There was tons of pressure on Brock Purdy. And then defensively, Niners looked tired. But I'm just talking our Niner offense against Bengals defense. There was no tell. The Bengals beat the Niners with personnel. Speed to the edge, tough run stuffers like Reader and Wilson inside.
Right.
Ravens.
Yeah. Okay.
Ravens beat the Niners. Did they do it with scheme? I don't think so. The Ravens did it with personnel. Kyle Hamilton is effing great. He's a great player. Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith are great.
I'm so happy you're coming to my side of things.
Marlon Humphrey, the Niners, from what I was told from some of my insider Niner people, had a full game plan to go at Arthur Mollett in that game. And McDonald, the D coordinator, took Mollett off the field, went with Darby outside, put Marlon Humphrey inside, and Humphrey had a day inside. So,
but that's what I'm saying, though. Do you see what I'm saying, though?
But I just think I don't think if they have a tell. I think it's personnel. That's all I would say.
Okay, and I don't want to step on your coke right now because you're cooking right now. But all I'm going to say is that we're saying the same things. Like, do you see how your inside source let you know that the game plan was to go after a person, not the conflict?
Make him that's what Kyle does. He makes one guy the conflict defender, and he goes out.
You cannot do that because that's when coaches say, all right, well, I'm just taking him off the field. Now what are you going to do? And what's crazy is, what's wild? We don't even know if Ronald Darby is better or worse than that other corner that didn't play. We don't even know.
He's just a veteran. It was more that Humphrey is good inside and outside, and he was good inside.
But this is what the game plans look like when they fall off. They look like we planned for A and they gave us B. That's what it looks like. And we don't know how to come off this. And when we're left with the best of what we do from zero, not prepared, just what we can do, we're a little bit compromised. Because of what we have, the team is engineered. I feel like we engineer our offense to attack the defense's weaknesses and to stay away from ours as well. And when you get a defense that knows how to have the conversation back and says, no. You don't get to dictate to us. We got enough to dictate to you. We're going after that O-line. We're going after it, right? That's something that Patrick McQueen said that I feel like is going a little bit unmissed, going overshadowed. He said, if you stay in those lanes and you stay in front of that offensive line, right? If you get and that's one of the things that the Ravens were doing. You have to not let our O-line off the hook. That's what I saw against the Browns. I saw that against the Ravens. They split us up one by one, and they all make us work up front. Everybody gets a D lineman. Everybody gets a block. And if you don't, not only that, they use simulated pressure. So they made us think. There were times where our slide side, okay, so for those, all right, let's have
Niners ran for 6-7 a carry in that game.
Yeah, and they stopped. Because they couldn't, they were down.
Yeah, but 46 passes, 18 runs.
In the pass protection, all right, so let's talk about O-line for a little bit. In pass protection, there's a slide side and there's a lock side, okay, for most pass protections, okay? Now, the slide gets declared based off of the strength. That's where most of the times when you see the center pointing out the mic, he's pointing out the strength because that's the extra hangover guy to who they're either sliding to, all right, or who they're sliding away from. The lock side is usually the juxtaposed tackle on the opposite side of the protection. Now, There are times where if offensively, from an offensive line perspective, your quarterback can call out protections as well as the offensive line to be able to change protections in the middle of a play if they see that they're not getting the numbers that they like, okay? The Ravens, what they were doing is they were simulating pressures to be able to go against our protections up front. So when we were calling slides to the left, they were showing pressure on the right and then looping back to the left. But we didn't have, the thing about offensive line is it's a little bit like playing secondary, right? It's a little bit like playing corner. If you're playing corner, right, let's say that you're a boundary corner and you're seeing a 3-by-1, right? And maybe you got your boundary at the corner, you got your nickel, all right? And then you have your safety playing number 3 over top. Sometimes what happens is that the responsibility changes post-snap, okay? It can be 1, 2, 3 in front, but if 2 dips inside and 3 dips over to the other side, the responsibility changes for those defenders. It's the same way with blocking up front for the offensive line. Protections change and responsibilities change based on how the stunt is given to you. The offensive line has never had to face a lot of defensive teams that, quite frankly, have the talent to be able to make us think that way up front. A lot of that was happening against Baltimore, where there were times where our slide was to the wrong side of the protection. There were times where we were using 3 offensive linemen to block 2 guys. We were using 4 offensive linemen to block 1 guy at certain times. They really put a conundrum for us up front. And a lot of that made Brock uncomfortable. There was a lot of pressure. So those are some of the things that I saw Baltimore do where they really put pressure on our offensive line and made us think up front. So I don't think
proof of that is that the Ravens in that game got 9 hits on the quarterback from 7 different players.
There you go, Clary. There you go. So
Roquan hit him, Queen hit him, Matabuke hit him, Van Noy hit him, Brent Urban had 3 hits on him. They were mostly late. Big Travis Jones got a QB hit. Clowney got a QB hit. You didn't know where they were coming from. They send their linebackers on some delayed blitzes. They also absolutely ruined the Niners on a tendency that they noticed, which was the condensed formations. You know, Brandon Stevens on the interception that Humphrey had, you know, blitzed off the edge against a condensed formation where he could get home because he was lined up inside. And then he timed his jump perfectly, batted that ball into the air. Normally that thing hits the ground. Instead, it went to Humphrey for a pick.
Yeah. I mean,
great play by Stevens.
Great play by Stevens. I mean, that's some of the things that we're going to have to start understanding. Hat on a hat football. It's time to put the schemes away. It's playoff time. It's good on good right now, right? The team, it's no secret. I mean, I saw a quote in here that when I was explaining the defense going against our offense, good defenses going against our offense, I saw a snarky comment that said, "Oh, so basically you need a really good defense to stop our offense in Brock." What the fuck do you think our offense is? We're a really good offense. It's going to take a really good defense to stop us. We're not some run-of-the-mill offensive team that just makes it happen because we got a good coach. Kyle is operating from a Michelin star kitchen. Okay, this ain't he's doing the best he can with nothing. He made his bed. He's put the best where he wants it. He didn't want to draft our line. He didn't want to get it together. That's his problem.
But the Niners have 11 double-digit wins.
Come on, man.
A lot of that is because
we got 5 Pro Bowlers on this offense.
They got great offense, great play caller, but they got great weapons. 11 double-digit wins, and their offense is the best in the NFL.
Yeah. So, look, I'm going to tell you, man, for us to win, I really believe that we're going to see a team that they're going to split us up. They're going to say, no more gang fighting. One by one, everybody's going to have to win their ring. That's what I feel like this year. That's the energy I feel.
Go on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, where everybody's going to have to win their ring individually. There's never going to be a time where Debo, I mean, shoot, if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it, man. We only got a couple of games left. I'm tired of pussyfooting around. One of the tells is Debo. When he ain't getting the ball, his effort is noticeably different. Okay?
You gotta get him touch the football.
Yeah. If he's not touching the ball, you know that number one, he ain't getting the ball, and number two, the ball ain't coming to his side of the field. And if it is, you can run through him. So that's something that's a tell right there. What I'm saying is that what we need to do is realize that the best teams, the teams that are really going to beat us, are not going to be teams who are trying to all put it together to beat us as one whole unit. Nah, man. We're going to face teams that are going to have the players across the board to play us. And I'd like to see us go out with the best of what we do, right? Because that's why we got all these Pro Bowlers.
We're having a great conversation this morning. The coach is in the house. It's the Krueger Show on a Saturday, co-streamed on both my channel and Coach's channel. Coach, give people an idea if they're stumbling into your channel for the first time, how they can follow you and what kind of content you put on the channel.
Oh, man. So right now we do 49ers content channel. We are a 100% fan advocacy page. I am a fan. I got started my channel and my platform coming out of the chat. I love being in the chat because that's where I started, my genesis of being able to reach out to the content creator side of being a 49ers fan. Since then, I started in the beginning of the season. It's been fun, man. I've done tons of collaborations, starting to do my own content. And I've just been grateful for, number one, you and Grant and Jesse and all of the guys who have just, wrapped their arms around me and helped me and pushed my platform and gave me advice and argued with me and the whole nine. But all I'm saying is that, we're at 3,000 subs and we're still moving. And
that's it right there, right? Bang
underscore
49.
Yeah.
So if you go to YouTube, YouTube and you type in bang underscore 49, you'll find Coach's channel. Give him a like, give him a subscribe, follow his channel, check out his content. He does some outstanding stuff. And we'll promote this a couple times before the end of the show. Go ahead, Coach. You wanted to say something else?
Oh, no, just one last thing. Like, my number one collaborator is my beautiful girlfriend. So she's been the reason why I've been able to do all of this. So, just shouts out to me, baby.
Look at you, man.
I love my woman,
Look
man.
at you.
I love my woman, bro. I don't hide it, man. When you love your woman, you love your woman, man.
You're like Will Smith right now, taking care of business.
No, hell no, not on that. No, never that. Never that. I'm not on that level.
Coach is hooking up he's getting stuff done in the morning and he's hooking up his late afternoon. Look at that. The man's covering all bases.
You got to multitask.
This is Shanahan in the first quarter thinking about the OT,
Hey, it is what it is, man.
Let's hit some of these supers, and then I got a question for you. The Chef says, why is Brock Purdy sitting and no one else is? By the way, I said before that Trent is sitting. He's not sitting. He's playing. Kyle Shanahan told reporters yesterday that indeed Trent Williams will play. How much he plays, we don't know, but he is going to give it a go.
I think he said a series or two.
Yeah, but why is Brock Purdy sitting? Because Kyle Shanahan wants to sit him. Steve Young doesn't think it's a good idea. Kyle does. Kyle's got the decision. It sounds like it was the first question I asked him this week when he spoke to us at the press conference. I said, is Brock Purdy playing? He said, no, he's for sure the one guy that's not playing. So, Kyle knows that, he knows Purdy better than we do as far as Brock Purdy's not the kind of guy who's going to go to the podium and be like, my elbow's a little sore. My chest got hit last week and I've got a contusion. I took a hit to my thigh and I've got a real deep bone bruise. Whatever. He's not going to say any of those things, but every single guy is walking around with something. He took some big hits in the Commanders game. He doesn't want to make
something.
Yeah, he doesn't. He just wants to make sure the kid's fresh, and he played well in Jacksonville off the bye. He played well in Pittsburgh after the bye, not playing in the final preseason, and he just is gambling. Kyle doesn't know the right answer. He's just gambling based on talking to Brock, talking to the coaches, and making his decision. Steve Young doesn't have all the answers. He's just telling you what his experience has been like from playing in the NFL and what was good for him. There is no right answer, no wrong answer. We'll see. We're going to see how it all works out. But Brock's not going to go, and I think it's just because Kyle made that call. Matthew says, You heard it here first. Darnold leads a fourth quarter, 8+ point comeback to get the W, and Kyle gets off the schneid with that stat. None of us are happy. So he's saying that basically the Niners will come from behind with Darnold on Sunday. Maybe Ricky
I feel
says,
like Kyle does want an opportunity to see what he can do with Sam. I think that this would be a good game for Kyle to be like, all right, let's let her rip. Let's go.
And I have it here in my notes for tomorrow's pregame, Shanahan's record. And under Shanahan, these are the numbers. Under Shanahan, when the Niners are 0-39 when trailing by 8 points or more in the fourth quarter. Under Shanahan, the 49ers are 1-33 when trailing by more than 10 points in the second half. That's really discouraging. The only win came in Week 18 of the 2021 season when they trailed the Rams 17-3 and then won in overtime 27-24. And then under Shanahan, the Niners are 4-35 straight up and 2-37 against the spread when trailing by 3 points or more entering the fourth quarter. So we'll see if they can reverse that trend. Ricky Williams says Fields to the Seahawks. If the Bears pick Caleb Williams, Larry Coach, it's a match made in heaven. It's scary as hell to think about him in our division for the next decade running around like Russ. Our thoughts. I'm a Fields fan, but what I've seen from Fields is an awesome skill set where at times he looks incredibly accurate, at times he looks inaccurate, an incredible running ability. The guy runs 4.4 flat. I really like Fields. I think Fields has a better skill set than Caleb. Now, that's just me. Other people like Caleb. And Caleb looked great at SC. But all I would say is, so did Matt Barkley. So did Rob Johnson. So did Carson Palmer. SC has a tendency to make quarterbacks look better than they are. I personally like Michael Penix the most of any of these quarterbacks in this draft class. Some people like Drake May. Some people like Bo Nix. Some people like Caleb. People have told me that Caleb's an all-timer. I don't see all-timer. I see a good quarterback, athletic quarterback. I see more special traits in Penix. Penix has physical problems that have to be investigated at the combine. That's going to determine where he goes. But I think you saw Michael Penix against Texas last week, and you're going to see him Monday night in the Natty. And I think Michael Penix is going to win that game, and I think Penix is going to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah. Ditto. I was on Caleb Williams. I was a big Caleb Williams guy. And then I started watching him at SC, and I fell off. He's good. He's good. I just don't know if he's all-timer. He deserves to be. Listen, there's no exposure conversation with him like I felt with Bryce. I felt like Bryce was picked way too high for what I saw him do at Bama. I'm a Bama guy, and I've always been saying that I didn't think Bryce was worth that type of compensation.
But great teams can make quarterback. I mean, Matt Leinart went like what? Wasn't he a top 15 pick?
Yeah, he was a top guy. He wasn't it because he had all those guys around him,
right? Reggie and everybody.
Yeah, literally everybody. So, yeah, I'm huge. I'm big on Michael Penix. I think that, but for today's league, I do understand that Michael Penix he kind of fits like the old tradition of what you want in today's league. You want that top 5 guy, right? You want that 15-year starter who's going to be your franchise guy. You can hang it up, build a team around him, and then be done with it. That's what Michael Penix kind of represents. But in today's league, there's a place for Bo Nix.
Oh, I like Bo Nix. I mean, I like all these guys a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think Penix is great.
Penix is the guy.
Penix makes Mahomes look like a rag arm. I mean, Penix has got a laser. Dude, I haven't seen anybody throw the ball like Penix. I mean, Penix to me reminds me of Flacco. I mean, he has got a hose. I saw him coach last year in a game in Seattle.
You seen him in person?
No, I didn't see him. I was watching it on TV, but there was 45 mile an hour winds. The other quarterback on that team that they were going against that night basically didn't even throw because they were like, the wind is too much. Michael
Was
Penix
still
came
out there
out.
going off.
His lasers just cut right through the wind.
Yeah.
And he's got a great arm, man.
Yeah, he's got a special arm. He's got a very special arm, especially when you see the way he's the confidence of his arm. And he's not even late on throws either. That's what makes him special. Yeah, I don't think that Caleb Williams is on Michael Penix's level. And do you also know, I think, Caleb's a hometown kid. He's from this area. So I've been seeing Caleb since he was playing in high school. And he's always been a little too cool for school, but that's his style. He's always going to hold on to the ball way longer than he needs to. He does give you that Patty Mahomes feel of that backyard football feel of being able to get plaster coverage, and that's when he really gets special. The biggest thing with Caleb is I feel like just his maturity of taking what's in front of him. He does get bored with the game. He's incredibly accurate, has a powerful ball. But my thing is that in today's NFL, consistency, seeing the field and getting the ball out on time is what rules everything. And that's where Caleb kind of misses me sometimes because he's a little reckless with the ball because he's trying to press the game. He plays like he knows he's the most important position on the field, but not from a service perspective, but from a dictatorship. Like, hey, everything needs to go my way. You would like that sometimes in your guys if they can actually pull it off and use it with maturity, but he's just not there yet. So he does have to change up his game a little bit from a maturity standpoint, how he sees the field. And the only reason why these things are actually highlighted in Caleb Williams is because of the emergence of Michael Penix, man, because he doesn't have any of those issues. For him to have as talented of an arm as he does, but still be able to stay ahead of the sticks, make the ordinary throws, and still take what the defense gives him is what makes Michael Penix Jr. special to me. It's the same reason why I like CJ Stroud is he's got the arm. He could put the ball anywhere on the field, but he still chooses to do the right thing. And that's what you need out of a quarterback.
Go for Brokes' pop quiz. Who was the 49th player that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan ever drafted for the 49ers? I have no idea. I could count to 49 and go look at their picks.
Hold on. 49th player.
Brock Purdy?
No, it couldn't have been Brock Purdy.
Well, could have been because they took over in 17. So 17, 18. Hold on. I'm gonna get this answer, damn it. It's gonna derail the show, but I'm gonna get the goddamn answer. Let me see here. I've got the 49er draft history and I'll count. See who it is. I think it's probably Brock Purdy. Okay, let's see. 49er draft history all time. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in 2017. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. Ding, 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 ding.
It was Brock Purdy?
Brock Purdy.
Dude,
look at that.
Quizzes.
Go for broke. Look at go for broke.
I'm not going to lie. These quizzes are he's got something going. I like these quizzes. I like these.
I guess I saw you working go for broke. Chris Lee or La says
I think go for broke's prior service. Air Force veteran.
Is he?
Yeah.
I like the way it's go for Baroque with a QUE. Chris Lee has become a YouTube member. I was giving him a little clap. I think he's a YouTube member for the coach's channel. Chris Lee with this one says, Coach, didn't know you lived in Maryland. Which part of Maryland did you tailgate this past Sunday at the Commander game at FedEx?
Dude, I live in PG County, Maryland, and I literally walked to the game. I walked home.
George?
Huh?
Something George, right? What is
Yeah. Prince George's County.
Prince George's. I said Phyllis George.
Yeah, Prince George's County.
I was thinking NFL Today from way back. Phyllis George.
I know, bro. But yeah, I
Prince
didn't
George.
tailgate. I literally walked to the game, walked straight in, went to my seat, and walked straight out. Had 10 beers and walked home. Like I was like, so
Nice.
hell yeah. I did my stream floating. Like I was toe up. So it was a good time, man. But yeah, I
A lot of Niner fans in the house. A lot of Niner fans in the house.
Dude, let me tell you something about the Niner fans. I don't think, see, this is our first time talking because we didn't do the big show. All right. So,
That's right.
all right, man, let me tell you about the Niners fans. So, number one, it's a very close knit fan base, right? So, I've been to tons of games, I've been around the game all my life. But the feel that I got from the Niner fan base is it felt like we were a college team. Like it was really close. You know how like fans of a college team is like family members, moms, cousins, friends of the team. It was like you could tell that there wasn't like this like stranger element of like, hey, I'm a Niners fan, you're a Niners fan. Let's just cheer separately. No, there was like this, oh, you're gonna engage. You're gonna have a conversation with me. We're gonna talk about where you're from. We're gonna talk about where I need to go eat after this. Like it was a whole deal. So it's like a real wholesome, it's a wholesome feel. There is kind of like a this is something that I noticed too that was kind of wild. Is we were trying to leave the game. So I was like 2 rows away from the field. And we turned around, the game's over, right? So we're like turning around to leave, right? And as we're leaving, there's like this huge onslaught of everybody that was like maybe 30 to 40 rows back and coming down because they wanted autographs. So we had to like push through a crowd just to get out of the stadium. Like you can see where like why these guys move the way they do. Like there's fans that treat this, they're not like fans of the team. It's almost like we're like a band. We're like a music group or something. Like we're like in sync. like you know what I'm saying? Like there's like separate contingencies.
It's a boy band. It's 98 degrees or something.
It's like,
like
oh my God, Christian! Oh my God, George! And like George comes to the sideline, he's like hamming it up with the crowd like a WWE star, making all of these facial expressions. Ooh, It's like it's a whole production, bro. Like there are guys on the team where you could tell, like, I'm here to play a game. I'm here to, we're trying to win. And I don't fault that they're all trying to win, but there's definite players that love the attention from the fans and they ham it up with the fans. And you could tell that there's this huge transference of energy. It was interesting to be a part of.
The Niner fan is a force of freaking nature. The Niner fan, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Niner fan. I'm saying this because
it's the truth.
This is I think the truth and my observation. Because of Joe, Ronnie, Jerry, Steve, because of the Niners' iconic status, the Niners pack the house on the road as well as any team in football. The Niners have fans. I mean, look how many Niner content creators there are who don't live in the market because Niner fans are everywhere.
They're everywhere. Yeah.
And now they're expanding internationally.
It's an empire. It really is an empire.
London is a big Niner hub now. The New York City of Europe is London's, the Niners are one of the most popular teams in London. Look at what the attendance looked like when the Niners played in Mexico City.
The attendance at the Commanders game was 70-30 Niners.
Wow. That's amazing. That's awesome.
70-30 Niners. I'm going to tell you, like, I went to the game, the Commanders Stadium, FedEx Field, it used to be the biggest stadium in the league. So it used to hold 6 figures, about like 105, 108. And then as time went along and they sucked more and more, they started like putting in like guardrails. Excuse me. They put together like a promenade that you can go out and stand on. So there's a lot less seats. All told, I would say FedEx probably sits like maybe like 65 to 70 now. But
Was it sold out? Was it sold out for the game?
No, not even close. So the whole upper ring of the stadium was spotty, very spotty, not a lot of people. The middle tier was more Redskins fans, but it still was like maybe 50% full. But that whole bottom bowl, like the meat of the stadium, that was like 80-20 Niners fans, and it was packed.
Wow.
Yeah, like there were times where like they were screaming for defense. We were screaming for defense on big downs where the Commanders were supposed to be like screaming for offense. Like it was bad. It was that lopsided. Like the point where the camera guys, I'm sorry, Larry, but I have to say this. The camera guys, they were going up to spots on the field where there were Commanders fans, and they were trying to like get enough Commanders fans in the shot to cheer for B-roll for the broadcast. You know how like they had the B-roll for the broadcast of the fans cheering in front of the cameraman, right. On the edge of the stadium. They were engineering that in the Commanders stadium. Like you could see the cameraman telling guys to like with signs like, dude, move closer. I can't shoot all this shit. It's not enough of you guys. Move closer so we can get like a dynamic shot so it at least looks like there's like 50 people in this shot when there's really like 10 of you guys. That's how many Niners fans were there.
The Niners took over Heinz Field in week 1. You could hear "Let's Go Niners." They took over Dallas. They took over LA. It's, they don't really take over up in Seattle. That's the one spot. They take over in Arizona. It's really amazing. It's awesome. And the players appreciate it. It makes going on the road an easier proposition because you're not alone. You've got all your fans in the house. The other fan bases feel it. I don't know if they fear it, but they definitely feel it.
Oh no, they feel it. They feel it.
Oh, they feel it. They feel it. And the players, I've talked to the players, and they love it. They absolutely love it. Go for Brooks' pop quiz answer. Incidentally, he was also the compensatory pick that the Niners got for C.J. Beathard, which was the 262nd pick in 2022. Brock freaking Purdy. All right, 2 last ones before we call it quits. We're almost 2 hours into our live stream. Appreciate every single one of you guys for jumping in. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in Northern California, New York style Italian sausage, Marin Autoglass, marinautoglass.com, and Underdog Fantasy and Mojo Fantasy. Check that link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, Krueg, and they'll match you your first $100. Jason Verrett, done for the year. This guy has torn both ACLs. He's had 2 Achilles blowouts. He's had a labrum tear. And now he lands on his shoulder, and he's got rotator cuff surgery, and he's done.
Yeah.
And he's probably done like forever.
Career, yeah.
And this is a local kid who's from Fairfield. An amazing story, really. One of the great athletes produced by this area. And when I say that, people are like, well, Krug, come on, pump the brakes. No. This guy ran 4.38 at 5'10", 185 pounds. He had 19 reps on the bench, and that was with a shoulder injury. He had already had a torn labrum. So he's always been strong, fast. He's always been in many ways the prototype physically of what you're looking for. He cannot stay healthy. And in practice, he landed on the shoulder, and they had to put him on IR. And Shanahan said he hopes JV, the man they call JV, and who's so beloved in the Niner locker room, sticks around, because the Niners have 5 young DBs, and they look up to this guy, and they're hoping that he sticks around. Yeah. I said last week and the week before that even though you got Logan Ryan and even though you got Jason Verrett, if it was up to me, I would lean on Samuel Womack and Darrell Luter, and not the young guys. And it's pretty obvious that Womack doesn't have a high level of trust from the coaches. And he's been buried on the depth chart. He gets special team snaps. Early in his career, they were projecting him as a nickel. but all 26 of his defensive snaps this season have been out on the outside. I talked to him in the locker room on Thursday, and he's in a good mindset and he's ready to roll. Now, Darrell Luter Jr., the Niners' 5th-round pick out of South Alabama in this most recent draft, spent the first half of his rookie year on the PUP list, and they activated him. He's played 20 snaps, all outside on the corner, and he's a mature, athletic kid, and there's no doubt that that you're going to see Luter and Womack a lot in this game. And I think that these are the two guys that I really want to see on the back end. I believe that Womack and Luter can play meaningful roles for the 49ers in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. And I, in a way, I'm not glad that Verrett got hurt, but I'm glad that it didn't happen later on and that now they've got a game here where they can take a more serious look at Womack III and Luter Jr. and kind of project them into playing some role of significance in the playoffs. So give me your thoughts, Coach, on Verrett. I mean, it's a sad story. This guy was a first-round pick.
Yeah, it sucks, man.
Awesome,
out of TCU.
Can't stay healthy.
Yeah, out of TCU, drafted in the year 2014. He's been in the league. How many years has he been in the league? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. This is one of these things where you can't go by the numbers, right? It's more about the man than the player. He's only played 2 full seasons in his career. 2015 and in 2020 he gave us 13 games. In 2015 he gave us 13 games. I mean, that was it. He's got 7 picks in his entire career and 125 solo tackles in his entire career. I mean, so even if you're going over the numbers, it's kind of like, what is this guy going to actually give us? But
he was going to play a lot, according to Shanahan.
That's why I wanted to start with it, is because, it's just his body. When JV's on the field and he's healthy, he shows to be one of the best corners in the league, full stop. But it's just his body. At this stage of the game, he's made a shit ton of money for the production that he's put in. So I'm sure he's upset that he can't really give it a go, but it does look like he's going to have to sit it down for a little while. And maybe at 33 years old next year, maybe somebody does give him a call. I would never shut the door on somebody's career, no matter where they are in the context of it, right? Because I know how it feels to have people tell you what you should do with your career, but they didn't play it. They didn't sweat. They didn't sacrifice for it. They didn't put down, this is this man's persona. You have to understand the type of guy Jason Verrett is that if he can garner the type of respect he does from all of these guys, but on paper, it looks as though that he just can't make it on the field. So you're dealing with somebody who it's kind of like, if you know type of player.
Leader too, a very respected leader. When he worked out, there was like 6, 7 guys veterans who came out to watch it. And I feel sad for him because he was in Houston, or was he? What? Yeah, he was in.
He was in Houston. He was on their practice squad,
and obviously he wanted to come home. They let him loose. He came here. He signed right away. I did an interview with him that you can watch on my YouTube channel a few weeks ago, and I was rooting for this guy. Every guy in the room was. Shanahan says he hopes he sticks around because he's, it's funny. It's like there are guys that we don't realize how respected they are by the other guys in the room. Eric Armstead is one of those guys, and Jason Verrett is one of those guys.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see how guys respond to him. I mean, outside of those two, maybe Trent is respected on that level. I would say. Outside of those two, I don't think we're losing necessarily anything with the leadership situation because he's going to be around, right? So that's something that it sucks. I'm walking on kid. I'm handling this one with kid gloves because Jason is a very respected player. I don't know him, but I'm just being respectful for what the guys say. Kind of shifting gears though. I really want to see what Darrell Luter Jr. is going to do. It's time. He looks great in his pads. I've been seeing him. He's been popping on special teams. He's been showing his speed. But again, this defense and this coaching staff is all about trust. If you don't get trust from this coaching staff, especially during practice, you will not play. We've seen that time and time again, right? So you have to ask yourself, what are they not seeing from Darrell Luter Jr. and Samuel Womack for them not to be inserted into the lineup? With Samuel Womack, maybe we're kind of looking at his physicality, a little bit of the missed assignments with him being on the field. Those are some of the things that I see when he plays. But with Darrell Luter Jr., I really want to see him locked in at that slot or even at that outside corner position and kind of sit Ambry down and see what Darrell Luter can do. I would be excited to see them start. I would love to see them get the start or at least get significant playing time tomorrow.
No doubt. Luter, to me, is in a lot of ways the physical prototype. So,
press man guy, long, strong.
Yeah. A couple last ones here. There's a report out that Brandon Allen, that the Niners view Brandon Allen as their quarterback 2 potentially for 2024. That right. Sam Darnold
because he's going to go.
Would probably jump to a place where he can play more. I mean, Sam Darnold came here with the idea, hey, man, Brock's got some injuries and we don't know, and maybe you'll get a chance to be on the field. And then Brock stayed remarkably healthy, and Sam Darnold has barely played. He said he has no regrets, but I think Sam Darnold moves on. What do you think of next year going forward with a quarterback room of Brock, Brandon Allen, and somebody maybe that you draft?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. If Brock is our guy. I would like to see a little bit more of what we have in Brandon Allen. And this is kind of like the great conversation to have with the quarterback room now, right? We know who our guy is. There's no hubbub. We can look at like who's the strong number 2. And Brandon Allen showed himself to be serviceable in preseason. So I don't have a problem with Brandon Allen getting in there. I would like to see another youth acquisition to get somebody else in the organization, maybe through the draft, somebody that's free. But yeah, I don't have a problem with Sam Darnold bouncing, and I get it. They look at how they brought him in. That's why the posture and how he was brought into the organization was confusing. They nabbed him up right away. Remember, like they got him right away. They gave him guaranteed money. Okay. They started talking about how he was the greatest thrower of the football the organization has ever seen. Kyle said, why can't he be the next Steve Young? And he was on a 1-year deal with all of this money. So for me, I was looking at, man, maybe this is a situation where we're kind of like waiting on Sam to play. But now where we are in the season, it looks like maybe those are the contingencies that they had to give Sam in order to lock him down, with understanding that our true A plan is working with Brock and seeing him through. And it seems as though we haven't had to go to him, which I'm pleased.
Free agent quarterbacks this offseason. Here are the unrestricted free agent quarterbacks. This is going to be the free agent market as far as quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, Tannehill, Jacoby Brissett, Tyrod Taylor, Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston, Drew Lock, Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew, who I wouldn't mind Gardner Minshew either. The way Minshew has played, I just love the way he comes off the bench. He's just no fear at all. I'd take him. Teddy Bridgewater, Tyler Huntley, Joe Flacco, who's probably earned himself a nice paycheck with the way he's played, Joshua Dobbs, Easton Stick, Nate Sudfeld, Blaine Gabbert, Josh Johnson, Kyle Allen, Brandon Allen, Trevor Siemian, A.J. McCarron, Matt Barkley, Mason Rudolph, Logan Woodside, Garrett Gilbert. Interesting list of free agent quarterbacks this year for sure. Of that list, I mean, obviously Cousins is going to go somewhere to be a starter, and
right,
he's going to make big money. But of that list, I like Mariota.
That was my pick.
I like Mariota. I like the way that Drew Lock played against the Niners.
He did.
To me, he was impressive. I really like Minshew. I like Flacco. I thought I liked Dobbs early in the year, but man, Dobbs looks so bad in that Bears game.
Yeah, he did.
I'm stained from liking Dobbs going forward. But yeah, Some interesting names there. All right.
Yeah, I mean, but the only thing about those guys is like, which one of those guys will be a number 3? Right? Because our issue is that we got Brandon Allen locked in.
But Brandon Allen's one of the guys. He's a free agent. So I'm just saying, if they could go away from Brandon Allen too. I mean, and I think Brandon Allen's probably going to be here, but yeah, I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe Brandon Allen wants to go somewhere else too. But they could take another look at their backup quarterbacks. I would like to see if you could find somebody in the draft. Crazy Rod 16. Yes, I was there in DC section 121. We dominated the stadium.
Yeah.
Crazy Rod said, Coach, next time you could host 49er Faithful Barbecue.
Oh, we could do it.
Man, that would be fun.
Hell yeah.
There's nothing better than a tailgater. And Ricky Williams says, if the entire team gets into a bar fight with each other, who wins, offense or defense? Defense.
Defense
always wins. Defense always wins. I mean, you got Greenlaw and Kinlaw on one side. I'll take defense.
Who's fighting Nick? Who's going to fight Dre?
Yeah. Who's going to fight Cleveland Farrell?
Who's going to fight Cleveland Farrell? Who's going to fight Javon Kinlaw?
Yeah. I mean, you got some. If I had to say who are the toughest guys in the room, I would probably say they're mostly on defense. I'd probably go Kinlaw, Cleveland Farrell, Chase Young, Dre Greenlaw. Who else? And then I would probably go on offense, Brandon Ayuk, and who's really tough is Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, Juwan Jennings. Yeah, let me tell you something. Juwan Jennings gives me that walking the school hallways in the middle of class feel. Like that kid that you're in class, and you look over into the hallway, and it's Juwan like. Juwan gives me that I walk the hallways during school feel.
2 last questions. Brandon Ayuk did not make the Pro Bowl. Why? Why didn't Brandon Ayuk make the Pro Bowl? Is it because he's too quiet?
He's not the number one option on a very talented team.
You saw those numbers, though, Coach. 1,300 plus yards, 97 targets. Puka, by example or by comparison, has like 1,400 yards, but he's got like 150 targets. He's got way over 50 more targets.
Another thing for BA2 is that BA doesn't get a lot of like one-on-one looks. Like BA doesn't get a lot of like he doesn't get a lot of positions where he gets to showcase what he truly can do, right? Very rarely is he given like the full route tree for him to just go out and go for broke and go up and go get balls. A lot of the stuff that he runs is where Kyle utilizes him to be a weapon in their offense and inside of their scheme. And, to be honest with you, a lot of people don't recognize how special BA is because, sometimes he's running open. Sometimes he's running schemes that get him in a position where he doesn't necessarily have to use contested catches. And that's basically not the MO of what the best receivers in the game are, right? That's not how we look at the best receivers in the game. We look at the best receivers in the game like when T.O. was here, like Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, guys that they hunt what they eat. You don't got to scheme them open. Just put the ball up. I'll go get it, right? Those type of guys, like where you come to a game and that receiver puts fear into the secondary that he's facing because they know that they can't cover him with one man. So, BA is there. He's pushing, but he's got a whole nother level to get into. And I almost feel bad for him because he's doing a remarkable job for his production, and he more than deserves his money, and he's doing it on a running team who has the least amount of passing attempts in the NFL. So it's kind of he's stuck in like this no man's land with us being a receiver because it's like I don't get featured. I'm not the number one offensive option. The identity of the team is running the ball. Ain't nobody gonna be putting me in Pro Bowling for how good I block, which is an actual stat that's something that I actually do good, right? Like nobody, that stuff doesn't come up when it's time to vote BA in for Pro Bowl. So
I think it has to do with the timing. I mean, if you said to me,
hold on, wait a minute, what did that say?
He said he's a poor man's Puka Nacua.
Oh, get bent. That's ass. That is not true. Puka Nacua is not better than BA.
No
we
way.
do drug tests at this show, son.
But clean it up. It's funny. Mooney Ward said yesterday, there's one receiver that's a Pro Bowler, and I won't name him, but Brandon should have been named a Pro Bowler for him. And I know he's talking about Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Nakua's good, but Nakua's not.
That's why I'm trying to chill because Nakua's I don't want to shit on the player because of the shit he take. I want to find a way how to take Puka Nacua out of this and just dump on Jim Everett because that is an ass take. Like that, he's not better than BA. You're tripping.
Yeah,
without luggage.
Come on. The one thing about if you said to me, give me a 49er that was rated higher than you thought, and it over the last couple of years, and I would say it's Talanoa Hufanga, who's been given all pro status. And I love Hufanga. Don't get me wrong. Huff's an awesome dude. Right. I've said it many times. I mean, he's the kind of guy you want your daughter to marry. I mean, he's an awesome person, and he's a very good football player. But he had some high-profile, great plays early in years or early in the season, and people put him in a category when they see the long hair and some of the impact plays, like he's Palomalu.
Troy, yeah.
Yeah, but he's not Palomalu. He doesn't run like Palomalu. He's a damn good player, don't get me wrong. But as far as like all pro, I don't know. I think Ayuk's on the other end of that. Ayuk had 2 touchdowns 8 games in. And I think that if he had the touchdown production that he had in the second half, in the first half, then maybe he's a Pro Bowler. But because he had a lot of his production late in the year, I think it's easy to overlook him. And also, people don't realize that the Niners have so many weapons that, he's kind of like, to me, he reminds me, if there's a guy that he reminds me of, it's John Taylor. John Taylor was about 6'1", but he had long arms, 6'1", 6'2", but he played like a 6'4", 6'5" guy. Same with Ayuk. Ayuk's like 6'1", but he looks like the biggest receiver on the field because he's got such long arms. He's physical. He'll run across the middle with not an ounce of fear. He hustles his ass off down the field to get a block in. He loves to bury guys in the run game or down the field as a blocker. He's awesome, man. To me, my favorite play this year, what game was it? I forget. Was it Pittsburgh where Ray and Ayuk both hustled down the left sideline and got a block in? Yeah, they got a block in at like the 5 to help Christian get in. I mean, those were 2 awesome plays. All right, big question here on the end here. We got two last ones. One is we'll go with the non-Niner one and we'll finish with the Niner one. According to Diana Rossini of The Athletic, the Raiders are hoping to get a chance to meet with Bill Belichick if he's let go by the Patriots. Now, that's interesting to me because the Raiders hired Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler away from New England and then fired them both. They fired McDaniels. They started 3-5. They fired Ziegler, who spent a decade in New England's front office. And so obviously there's something about New England that they're trying to replicate, but then they felt like when they got an up-close look at Ziegler and McDaniels that those guys weren't it. I had Jason LaCanfora, who's from your part of the world there, Coach, on the radio a couple weeks ago. I said, what's the next move for Belichick? And he's like, well, I don't think he's going to be back next year. And there's all kinds of indications that tomorrow will be Belichick's final game with the Patriots.
Yeah.
And I said, what's his next role going to be? And he's like, he doesn't think he's going to coach or be a GM, that he's going to be like, a football operations consultant or something somewhere. But what do you think? I mean, if you're Bill Belichick, what do you think of Mark Davis giving Belichick kind of the keys to the kingdom and letting him kind of build whatever he wants to build in Vegas.
Okay, so I respect Bill Belichick
Tom Brady's
tremendously.
already a part owner, by the way, of the
True.
Raiders.
Yeah, which is even more reason why I'm about to say my take. I think that it's absolutely wild that Bill Belichick would give the Raiders any type of look. I think that he feels like the organization is beneath him. To be honest with you, it'd be a little weird for his legacy. He's 72. All right, he's got 6 rings. And also, it's not like Nick, right? Like Coach Saban, he's got the autonomy to be agile, right? Because he's in college. So if the tide changes on NIL, recruiting, how conferencing, all of those things, bringing in staff, all of those things could be controlled if you got a university and an athletic director that give you the power to do it as a head coach, right? But if you're a coach in the NFL, you're kind of strapped to the times of what the bottom line is. And I feel like Bill may be a little bit of a dinosaur in today's league. He doesn't have enough time to develop these guys. I mean, think about what Coach Belichick does. He strips away all of the fanfare. He completely isolates the team. He runs every literal part of the team, and everybody has to do their job. And right before guys get too big-headed or get enough money, he trades them for assets, moves forward, and he practices the hell out of the boys. And his best guys were guys that he had time to develop, right?
He's a great DB coach who was also an elite defensive coordinator. I don't know that he's an elite personnel guy.
Okay. I will say this. I think that it'd be best for a coach to hang it up. He's just not his league anymore. He don't have the bandwidth, the time, and quite frankly, like a lot of these coaches now, they're specialists. They're not coaches. They're specialists. They're coordinators. They're guys that have a scheme that can put together some stuff. And if you can just slap a little bit of personality on these dorks, they turn them into head coaches. But very few guys are actual, like, soup to nuts, A to Z head coaches, where I'm going to get a guy, develop him. I know how to scout the guy. I know how to bring him in. I know how to coach coaches. That's a big thing, right? I know how to build an entire platform where my coaching staff is not going to get poached. And I'm going to have good relations with ownership where I'm going to have the autonomy to do what I need to do and have time to do what I need to do. I don't think that exists anymore really for teams in the league. And I feel like you need a kind of a new age coach that, in a way, all they do care about is football. Literally, like the game. Like they're like glorified gamers. Like they care about winning the game.
Mark Davis wants a star name. Antonio Pierce has the support of the locker room. A lot of guys there want to see him be the full-time head coach, but there's also a lot of rumors about Jim Harbaugh being given, the keys to the kingdom, and we'll see if Harbaugh gets it done Monday night. What is your prediction, by the way, Monday night? You like Michigan or you like Washington?
Washington.
I like Washington too. How about that final year of the Pac-12, and they're going to maybe win the national championship?
I love it. They deserve it. They deserve it.
It's an amazing thing. All right, last one. We'll finish with this.
Okay.
If the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl, what will be the reason?
Offensive line. It'll be O-line and Kyle.
O-line and Kyle.
Yeah, we're just not gonna get our asses beat on defense. That's not gonna happen. That's the part of our team where we can line up with almost anybody. I think that if we don't win it, it's gonna be that O-line, and we all gonna be talking about Kyle's scheme, like we always are. If we don't win it, it's gonna be on that O-line, and we're gonna be talking about what was Kyle thinking. It's gonna be something about him coaching during the game, or something about him not coming off of a game plan that he put together that we all see wasn't working. That's the long and short of it. That's us. That's the Niners.
My answer, I'm going to go with Brock Purdy interceptions. The Niners have 4 losses this year. In their 4 losses, Brock Purdy has 9 interceptions. If the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl, it's going to be because of Brock Purdy interceptions. It's not going to be because of, and that might be right into your O-line, really, right? Because it's all kind of tied together.
Yeah.
But that's what I would say.
I just don't see Brock sitting
Purdy
back there throwing picks and the O-line is having a great day. I don't see that.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. But that's, to me, that is it. If Brock Purdy can take the check down, take what the defense gives him, really be disciplined about taking care of the football, be patient. You got to remember this. You got a great defense. Not only you got a great defense, you got a great punter. Mm-hmm. You got a punter that can stick teams inside their 20 and force them to drive at 85 yards for a touchdown. Between Wisnowski and this defense, especially if Armstead comes back and Greenlaw's rested and, the young DBs start to play, Jair Brown's back. I think the 49ers, all Brock's got to do is not turn it over. With the weapons he has and Kyle calling the plays, that with the NFC being down, if Purdy can just not turn the football over, I think that's the key. That's the key. 4 losses, 9 picks on 120 pass attempts. Don't turn it over. Don't turn it over. And I think the 49ers are going to win it all. We got one in here that really intrigues me, and it's out of nowhere. Big Dez. James Williams. James Williams from Miami.
6'5" safety from Miami. He's a big boy.
James Williams is one of my favorite prospects in the draft.
He's a big boy. I like Malachi Moore, though.
Malachi Moore. I love Malachi Moore as well. I was looking at both those guys. They say James Williams is going to go second round, maybe third round, depending on how he runs. He's 6'5" safety.
I got to see how he runs. That's
be a linebacker. He may be a linebacker. But you know what? I love James Williams and I love Cameron Kitchens. I love both those Hurricane safeties in this draft.
You know what James Branch could be?
More too.
You know what James Williams can be? He can be what the Cardinals tried to do with Isaiah Simmons and Deion. Remember what was that? Deion Buchanan from Wazoo. Yeah. Remember how they tried to start bringing in like that star, like almost kind of like that Cam Chancellor with
hybrid.
Yeah, like that hybrid star, dime linebacker type of role. Like if we got a James Williams to be able to pull that off, that would be crazy. If we got that, that'd be wild.
Dude, Coach, I didn't know you were dialed in on the Canes. James Williams, I've already done my deep dives for the draft, and I'm getting ready. As soon as the season ends, I'm going to be coming out with all kinds of draft stuff.
Dog, we got to hook up on the draft. It would be shameful for 2 scouts not to go in on drafts, dude. We got to go in on draft.
Oh, well, I'm all about it. I love that kid, though.
Amari Mims is my guy who I want us to get in the first round. That's my guy.
Yeah, Amarius Mims.
Sorry. Amarius Mims. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a great feat. But James Williams is like 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds. He wears number 0. The guy is special, man. He was special as a freshman. He's a crazy athlete. And James Williams. That's that. You know what that is? That's Kyle Hamilton type game changing stuff. Like if we're gonna watch Kyle Hamilton do what he did on defense, then James Williams is where you want to go. Special player, man. Special player. He is one of the best safeties in the country. I love Cameron Kitchens too. He's a real center fielder at free safety. He had the most interceptions in the Power 5 this past season. Cameron Kitchens is a hell of a player. He led all safeties in the country. He had a 90 PFF grade, 90.7 coverage grade, 6 picks. Cam Kitchens is real, but James Williams is
No, he's
Phenomenal kid.
a James Williams, honestly, if we're gonna keep it real, and I dare say his name, but my all-time favorite football player
Sean
is
Taylor.
Sean Taylor. That's my all-time favorite football player. Sean Taylor, that's the vibes he gives you. He's long, he's big, he's fast, he's mean as a fucking rattlesnake. He has range, he's heady. He's a generational player if you get it, especially in today's league. I'm sitting him right now and I'm watching the acceleration. This kid's got gait. Hey, we got James Williams, man. He may not drop out of the
James
top
Williams.
15.
You got well, God, man, he's gonna have to work out great. But
I almost don't want him to.
Look at this video, if I can play it here from do I have it? Where's the Cam Kitchens video?
I'm sitting here watching this, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
Wait a second. Let me stop sharing here. I got this one more. I gotta throw in here. You guys gotta see this.
He's long too.
Cam Kitchens, though, too. Both these guys are really special. Look at this. Look at this video right here.
Let me see.
From This is Kitchens. I'm gonna build this thing up.
Fuck it, sign them both.
Yeah, seriously, I would take both these guys. Look at some of the video on this kid. This is Cam Kitchens from the Hurricanes. Let's see if we can roll this tape. It's revving up here. Let's see.
Yeah, it may take a little bit.
It may take a second. But, Cam Kitchens and James Williams, both super special players.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
And Kitchens is smaller. Williams is big and rangy, but they're both really, really good. I guess it's not going to roll. Anyway, we'll get into the draft stuff a lot in the springtime for sure. Coach, great stream. Thanks to everybody. Let's see. Do we have one more here? We do, from Ricky William. Oh, no, we got that one. Strawberry Reacts. Larry lost faith in Brock Purdy after the Ravens. No longer Purdy prophet. No, I'm just saying, if the Niners lose, they've lost 4 times this year. In those 4 games, Purdy's thrown 9 picks. What I'm saying is I believe totally in Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy takes care of the football, 49ers are going to win. 49ers are going to win. The only way they're not going to win is because here's the thing. They have the bye weeks now. So that takes care of the missed tackles, fatigue on defense, right? That was one of my big concerns. Would they be too fatigued on defense? They're not going to be too fatigued on defense. They've given Armstead the rest. They're going to be able to give Greenlaw some rest. They're going to be fresh on D. So that was a concern. And then O-line, I kind of like the way the O-line has come together. It stayed healthy. They're still, they picked up Barch. They've got some better depth. The run defense, I think, will be helped by the freshness of the defense. And really just it comes down to the rustiness. I don't believe is going to be a factor. So to me, the issues were O-line, rustiness, run defense, and then interceptions or / Purdy's inexperience. And I think that if Brock, now that he gets a week off, I think it will be a mental reset. If he just takes care of the football, I like the Niners. All right, Coach. What do you got cooking the rest of the day? You
watch
these
games.
These football games. What do we?
Yeah, I'm watching a couple of these games, man.
Steelers Ravens at 1:30. Texans Colts tonight at 5:15. Texans are favored by 1. Steelers favored by 3. I like the Ravens. I like the Ravens at home.
Yeah, me too. It's gonna be good to watch just some ball. I mean, we're kind of coming down to the realness, man. Like, NBA's ramping up. Warriors are ridiculous for trying to get rid of Kuminga.
God, all I got to say about that is if you can get like a Lauri Markkanen out of Utah, okay, fine. Other than that, trade Wiggins, keep Kuminga, and God, Steve Kerr. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing? Nuts. That kid's playing great, and you get beat in the 4th quarter by 16 points, and he doesn't get off the pine. I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's almost like Steve. Is he trying to cause a rift on the team? I mean, what's going on?
I got no clue, man. I got no clue. But everybody's that raised my eyebrows. I'm not even a Warriors fan.
Who's your team?
Lakers, they suck.
Yeah, the Lakers are talking about trading for DeJounte Murray. I mean, the Lakers are trying to shake it up too.
Who cares? Their ass. Horrible. They are, bro. They are so cheeks. Like, I am not a fan for real. Like, you know what I want to say, but LeBron, man, I'm waiting for him to go. Like, I want my team back.
I hear it. I hear you. LeBron he's a drama queen for sure.
He's a polarizing guy, man. I want my team back.
JM617 says LeBron even knows the Lakers is done. There you go. And Jimbo throws a bang bang 49.
Bang bang.
Bang bang. All right, everybody. Coach's channel is bang-bang_49. Give him a like, give him a follow. Everybody have a great Saturday. Enjoy some football. Go Niners. Check us out tomorrow at the Santa Clara Hilton with me and Lonia leading into the pregame. We'll do postgame afterwards. Are you doing postgame tomorrow with Vish?
Yeah, this is me being Vish's first day back, first show back for our postgame. I'm going to have the walkthrough before. And right now, guys, I was going to do a call-in show, but we got a little bit of power issues with a storm going on. If you guys are around this area, we got a storm going on. So I'll put out something to see if we're going to do a call-in show later on today.
Sounds good. For the coach, I'm Larry. Have a great Saturday, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Krueger Show. Thanks to New York Style Sausage, Pig in a Pickle, Marin Auto Glass, Underdog Fantasy, Mojo Fantasy. We are out.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you